Hey, everyone, what's happening? Jeff C here with Venomnymous, and we're going to do a really special sort of broadcast here. There we go. So that confirms that I'm coming in. Welcome to the show, everyone. I hope you're doing well. And yeah, we're going to discuss something that we should all, brave new world, we should all be paying attention to because this is the future, and the future is now. We've talked a lot about CRISPR babies and gene editing, the splicing of genes, the type of designer babies. Haven't done an official sort of podcast on the artificial wombs, so this is it here. And it's something that I've been looking into over the past few months. And my guest here tonight, Venomnymous, has done a lot of work on this. He's got a Steemit page. I posted a link to his Twitter and his Steemit. Those are his main ways that you can follow him, and his Steemit is where he really does his work. So with that being said, welcome to the show, Venomnymous. How you doing?
All good.
Okay.
Sorry, I was making coffee while you're.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's okay.
Time.
Go and make your
we're
coffee. Go and make your coffee. I'll talk a little bit longer.
Sure.
Yeah, you got to have your coffee. Anyway, so yes, folks, it's pretty serious what's going on because what we're witnessing. Okay, so you look around, you see everything that's happening. Now, there's a full-on deconstruction of the family. There's a division of men and women. Okay, that's happening everywhere. Me Too, Time's Up, toxic masculinity. This is not, this is not happenstance or by chance or anything like that. This is all part of a major sort of plot to redefine human beings. The future human beings are going to be radically different from what we are today and what our ancestors were before us. So the deconstruction of the family is a worldwide or a new world order sort of thing. It's not worldwide in the sense that there are a lot of countries that are not completely inundated with the new world order or have not been completely controlled, but it's happening. And so they want to deconstruct the sort of nature of what we are, right? And this is a long time plan. It's not something that just came up over the past 10, 15 years, say. It's actually going back, in some cases, hundreds of years, where the earliest sort of ideas of this future, this brave new world, and we'll talk about Aldous Huxley too, because he becomes more and more relevant as we move forward into this brave new world. But yeah, the whole deconstruction of the family is full on. You see it all around you, right? And this is what it's all about. The even gay marriage and things like that are all about deconstruction of the family. And the division of the male and the female, the just everywhere you look, right? You see this, the LGBTQ XYZ programming of the children, the normalization, the drag kids, like you see drag kids on CBC, on prime time, RuPaul's Drag Tots, cartoon shows. You've got all the books in your children's library, with the Kevin's Two Dads and When the Leopard Lost His Spots, and it just goes on and on and on. This is a whole deconstruction of what we are. And they have anticipated, and we're going to show you this as we move forward, they've anticipated that there will be a strong resistance to this future humanity. And so they're setting the table in many ways. And part of what we're going to discuss tonight all ties into the feminist agenda, because a lot of what they're promoting with this artificial wombs deals with feminism. And it's like, how can women free themselves from the patriarchy? Well, one of the ways that they'd be able to free themselves from the patriarchy is if they could make their own babies without having to, burst that dike sort of thing. So, that's something that plays a big role in convincing people to accept the future. We talked about it recently, where one of the ministers of parliament in Britain came out and said that he wants to have gene editing mandatory for all babies in the future. And there's more and more controversy, more and more of this stuff coming out all the time that, I think it's more recently, it's the deputy prime minister, I'm not sure, but we'll look into that. I have an article open on that, but we're seeing this change, this radical shift, and it is huge. This is absolutely enormous because we're talking about the future of humans. So, and this all does come in conjunction with the transhumanism as well, the brain chips and everything else, the nanotech that's all coming. It's pretty scary how it's all progressing so quickly. You're seeing a lot of this manifest in your entertainment. There's a lot of movies recently, and even going back over 100 years, will show you this, that telegraph this future, this brave new world where, it's no longer the dirty deed that produces the children. It's machines, basically, right? And now they can create babies basically with skin cells. That's all they need right now in 2020 to be able to design a baby or to make a baby, is a skin cell. This is how crazy it is. And then we think of the ethical questions moving forward, like what would these humans, and a quote in quotation marks, what rights would they have? Well, they'd have probably all the rights that you have, if not more, because they would be extra special. And again, when we talk about gene editing and the CRISPR babies that are coming forth, it's the elites that will have access to the most powerful sort of advancements in this, and they will be able to create the most genetically superior human beings. Now you're talking about superhuman beings, much like what Nietzsche and others anticipated, the rise of the Superman sort of thing. This all feeds into the children of the damned, for instance, a new type of human beings that are going to rise up. David Bowie, of course, I've covered this quite a bit in the past, that the new children would take over the world. And it has unbelievable implications. I mean, the possibilities of what is we're on the cusp, or we're on the precipice of something completely different, a completely different world. I mean, you're going to be walking around before long, and you're going to have to try to guess what these human beings are around you, if they are even human at a certain point. And then there's also animal hybrids and all these different things that are undoubtedly being developed at the same time. And in Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, of course, one of the most infamous dystopic sort of sci-fi, and they're really not all that dystopic when you look at it. I mean, 1984 is well here already in so many ways. Brave New World is here in so many ways as well. And a lot of people would argue that Brave New World was actually more accurate in what it predicts. And Brave New World, if you go back and you look at it, I mean, human beings are not delivered the same way. It's not men and women coming together having sex that produces humans. They're built, they're designed, and then they're delivered in test tubes, sort of thing. So this has all been long foreshadowed. And we're right here now. We're seeing this happen. It's all happening. And the movies and the videos, I imagine there's so much out there. We're going to show you some of what I've been able to find dealing with this, but there's so much more. So with that being said, I hope he's got his coffee ready. Hey, Venon, how are you doing, man?
I'm all set.
All right. Awesome.
I'm already sipping on it. We're good.
So we're going to start off here. You see on the screen, we've got the BBC, and it's going to be difficult to play. Some of these videos I won't play, but we'll kind of discuss through them, sort of thing. But we were going to start here with a particular character that everyone should be familiar with here, which is this JBS Haldane. What do you want to tell us there, Venomnymous, about this particular character?
This is the man that came up with the concept of ectogenesis, which is artificial wombs. He coined that term. He also coined the term cloning.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, those are two big things right there. He has ties with Darwinism and Aldous Huxley guy's ideas from him. Just he's a pretty big character that I've never heard of. So.
Yeah, it's this guy. He strikes me as one of these time traveler type characters, But you're right. He made the term ectogenesis, and this is one of the main terms that we're going to be discussing tonight, because that's exactly what it is, ectogenesis. In fact, we'll ask Wikipedia here for a second what exactly they define that is, which is from the Greek ecto, outer, genesis is the growth of an organism in an artificial environment outside outside the body in which it would normally be found, such as the growth of an embryo or a fetus outside a mother's body, or the growth of bacteria outside the body of the host. The term was coined by, of course, British scientist J.B.S. Haldane. So yeah, and this guy's he was Aldous Huxley's biggest influence, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
And yeah,
He,
he's sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say he definitely was the influence for Brave New World and how the process went. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
So
this guy's kind of nuts because like he would experiment on himself with like poisonous gases and stuff. And I don't know, the guy's nuts. He's like fought in wars and I don't know. He's he's an interesting character. If you just take the time to look through his Wikipedia sometime, it's I don't know, he's got some crazy stuff about him. I found it very interesting.
He's got a flamboyant suit on, it looks like here.
I just like how he's like twisting his mustache, like yes.
Is he twisting? I thought he had a cigar.
I thought he was twisting his mustache.
Ah, yeah, he's got deep thoughts. So yeah, this guy here, he's a British known scientist known for his work in the study of physiology, genetics, evolutionary biology, and mathematics. So he died in 1964. He made an innovative contributions in the fields of statistics and bios. He's one of these jack of all trades, really. When I was looking through him, I was like, oh, he did this as well and that. Yeah, that's why I said the time traveler thing. So his article on abiogenesis in 1929 introduced the primordial soup theory, and it became the foundation to build physical models for chemical origin of life. Haldane established the human gene maps for hemophilia and color blindness on the X chromosome and codified Haldane's rule on sterility and the heterogametic sex of hybrids in species. He also produced a sickle cell disease, confers with some immunity to malaria. He was the first to suggest the central idea of in vitro fertilization, which is already a fait accompli. Many people are using this technique today because the fertility rates are so down in men and women that a lot of people have to resort to this. So he's one of the first to come up with that idea, as well as the concepts such as the hydrogen economy, cis and trans acting. Do you know what that is?
I looked it up. It was boring, but I just found it really interesting.
I thought it's something to do with trans.
Like cis acting. That's so weird.
Trans acting element is usually a DNA sequence that contains a gene. Yeah, it's interesting. Anyways, we'll go back here. So transacting regulation, coupling reaction, molecular repulsion, the Darwin as the unit of evolution, and organismal cloning. So he kind of developed the term cloning as well.
Yep. Yeah, he's the one who coined it.
In 1957, he articulated Haldane's dilemma, a limit on the speed of beneficial evolution, which subsequently proved incorrect. He willed his body for medical studies as he wanted to remain useful even in death. He is also remembered for coining, again, this is what we just mentioned, the words clone and cloning in human biology and ectogenesis, which is going to be the main focus for tonight.
Wait, I want to just point out one thing. To be useful even after death, that reminds me of the programming of people being fertilizers and stuff, being useful after death. That was a whole thing in Brave New World. About not wasting your body and contributing to society even after you're dead. That's what it reminds me of.
I can't help but think though, like as well, about Soylent Green.
There you go.
Yeah, that a lot of this kind of comes together. That they are, and yeah, I mean it's the euthanasia and all that is being pushed massively now. So this all kind of ties together. So his first paper in 1915 demonstrated genetic linkage in mammals. Subsequent works established unification of Mendelian genetics and Darwinian evolution by natural selection. So I guess the Nazis would have liked him. Whilst laying out the groundwork for modern evolutionary synthesis and thus helped create population genetics. Is he involved in eugenics as well?
I think so. I can't remember. I got photos, but I got so many photos that
Yeah, I
I'd have to
think
dig for a
so.
while to
Well,
get
we
to
know
it.
that Aldous Huxley was massively in that as well, so we'll look at that. I think I have something prepared on that. Haldane was a professed socialist, Marxist, atheist, and humanist.
Yeah, he's the all trades there.
He's basically a New World Order scum.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds like most of YouTubers today, whose political dissent led him to leave England in 1956 and live in India and become a naturalized Indian citizen in 1961. He's the son of John Scott Haldane. Arthur C. Clarke, one of the most famous sci-fi writers
Hmm.
and a big time, I guess you could say New World Order author who accurately predicted a lot of what has
Yeah,
already happened,
he's
including
part of
the
that
internet.
group, the group of academics that
Yeah.
blueprint for the New World Order, pretty
Yes,
much.
exactly. Along with Aldous Huxley and co.
Orwell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Orwell. So Arthur C. Clarke credited him as perhaps the most brilliant science popularizer of his generation. Nobel laureate Peter Medawar, I believe I recently covered him, called Haldane the cleverest man I ever knew. According to Theodosius Dobzhansky, Haldane was always recognized as a singular case, and according to Michael G.D. White, was the most erudite biologist of his generation and perhaps of the century. So,
Much praise for this guy.
yeah. Is there anything else in this particular article that we should look at before we start to jump
I
in?
think there's a couple things I got. Shit, I got to dig through for my photos because I know
Okay.
I have some around. So maybe just
Yeah,
you
I'm
skim
just
through while I look.
you go ahead. So yeah, he's got the genetic linkage here. He started the Mendelian genetics in 1908, used guinea pigs and mice, publishing Republican in Mice, and the first demonstration of genetic linkage in mammals, showing that certain genetic traits tend to be inherited together, as was later discovered.
Oh yeah,
And
found something.
yep,
Sorry.
go ahead.
He hydrogen generating windmills in 1923 in a talk given in Cambridge titled Science in the Future. Haldane, foreseeing the exhaustion of coal for power generation in Britain,
Oh yeah.
proposed a network of hydrogen generating windmills. This is the first proposal of hydrogen based renewable energy economy.
Wow. So again, when we said a jack of all trades, really a jack of all New World Order trades, here, population genetics. He was one of the major figures to develop a mathematical theory for population genetics. And he thus played an important role in the modern evolutionary synthesis of the 20th century. He reestablished natural selection as the central mechanism of evolution by explaining it as a mathematical consequence of the Mendelian inheritance. He wrote a series of 10 papers, Mathematical Theory of Natural Artificial Selection, deriving expressions for the direction and rate of change of gene frequencies, and was also analyzing the interaction of natural selection with mutation and migration.
Hmm.
And then he had a book called The Causes of Evolution, summarized these results, especially in its extensive appendix. His contributions to statistical human genetics included the first methods of using maximum likelihood for the estimation of human linkage maps, pioneering methods for estimating human mutation rates, the first estimates in mutation rates in humans, and then he talks about the hemophilia gene and the first notion that there is a cost of natural selection. And then, yes, with his political views, he was a socialist, Marxist, and all that, which is very, very interesting at that time, too, because of the Bolshevism and everything else that was going on. And then here with human cloning, this is what we want to look at this, obviously, this whole section here. Human cloning, Haldane was the first to have thought of the genetic basis for human cloning, and eventually artificial breeding of superior individuals.
Hmm.
Again, this is a huge theme, especially amongst the eugenicists of the New World Order. And this goes back, I mean, you can trace it back. I mean, people more recently with Bill Gates and stuff, which is ironic, right? Because you look at Bill Gates and that's the last thing you would think is this guy has good genes. But Margaret Sanger, again, with her too, another example. But going back throughout the history of eugenics, this is something that they have talked about for so long, and this often what we see coming forth. I mean, what I think that we're going to see in the future, I think with the massive attempts to depopulate the planet and take control, which I'm saying is taking control of human reproduction, which is what the New World Order is trying to do, is that they're going to produce a future human race devoid of many of the, say, limitations of current humans that will not reproduce. There will this, like they talk about the last generation, right? And it's interesting where you got a generation X, Y, and Z and stuff like that, right? But they talk about, even with Ray Kurzweil talking about humanity's reached its last generation or something, and people are going to stop breeding, and then the children of men, the type of movies and shows that come out that depict a future where people are unable to conceive anymore. This could all be happening at the same time, right, as they're developing the type how humans are going to be developed in the future. And it'll be something likely where you will have to have a certain status within society that will enable you to pass on your genes, or to actually have one of these babies grown in a lab for you, which would be much less your own baby as something that is produced with the most superior genes and whatever else tech they can mix in there. So anyways, it's very interesting that this guy is, his history here. He introduced the terms clone and cloning, modifying the earlier clon, which had been used in agriculture since the 20th century, which is from the Greek clone twig. He introduced the term in his speech, biological possibilities for human species in the next 10,000 years, at the SIBA Foundation Symposium of Man and His Future in 1963. And this is what he said. He said, it's extremely hopeful. This guy was thinking way ahead, right? It's extremely hopeful that some human cell lines can be grown on a medium of precisely known chemical composition. Perhaps the first step will be the production of a clone from a single fertilized egg, as in Brave New World, on the general principle that men will make all possible mistakes before choosing the right path. We shall no doubt clone the wrong people, like Hitler. And interesting with Hitler too, the cloning theme with Hitler. If anybody's read the New York Times bestseller, that after about 6 months it was released, they were already producing the movie. Kind of how these things work. Which was Boys from Brazil. Are you familiar with that one?
I've heard you talk about it, but I haven't got around to watching it.
Yeah, the book Era 11. Not sure the tribe. And this was a plot that was hatched, or that was from the Second World War. Hitler and his scientist cloned Hitler. And were able to plant his embryo into people around the world, sort of thing, so that there were all these little Hitlers that were being raised. Yeah. It's really, really interesting. So anyways, assuming that cloning is possible, I expect that most clones would be made from people aged at least 50, except for the athletes and dancers who would be cloned younger. They would be made from people who were held to have excelled in socially acceptable accomplishments. Then here, in ectogenesis and in vitro fertilization, his essays, Daedalus and or Science in the Future, introduced the term ectogenesis for the concept with what is later known as in vitro fertilization, test tube babies. He envisioned ectogenesis as a tool for creating better individuals. Eugenics. Yeah. Haldane's work was the influence on, of course, Huxley's Brave New World, which came out in 1932. Too bad it wasn't 33. Should have waited.
They could have waited. Yeah. What the hell? Wasted opportunity.
Yeah. And was also admired by Gerald Hurd. Various essays on science were collected and published in the volume of Possible Worlds. And what else? Combined his physiology research into the effects of stress upon the human body with the experience of air raids during the Spanish Civil War to provide scientific account of the likely effects of air raids in Britain. And then he had some sort of criticism with C.S. Lewis, who's a well-known Christian science fiction writer. And C.S. Lewis accused, or Haldane accused C.S. Lewis of scientism. Interesting. And then you, as aforementioned, the hydrogen generating windmills. So yeah, interesting. Very interesting character that is essential to understanding this ectogenesis, this whole very...
I think that's his daddy's mustache. Yeah, daddy's got a better mustache.
He's got a serious one. Lanny McDonald is envious. All right, so where should we go next, Venomnymous?
Oh, geez. Okay, there's a lot.
We've got so much here. I could just go through here and maybe...
Yeah, let's try that.
All right. So I've got so many articles here dealing with this. Now maybe some of the earlier ones that...
oh yeah, let's do that one. Let's do
which one?
This one. The students, they created a prototype type thing for a biodesign event. Actually, no, we could do this one. The guy who predicted this dude. What's his name?
You got them all here.
Yeah.
Hang on a second here.
Yeah.
Because I want to show you how the whole feminist element comes into play here as well. But yeah, okay. Well, let's just let's start here. We'll just show you some of the latest here. So this is from the 16th of October. We'll go through this, and then you just jump in any moment there that you want to interject anything anonymous.
Sure.
The world's first artificial womb for humans, and this is scientists. Now, this symbolism here is really interesting. These purple balls, right? We've seen this too, and it's coming in the games and it's coming through the movies. So you're going to see a lot of this. Probably if you go back and you watch a lot of science fiction and stuff that depicts this, and we'll show you some of this later as we get, because in the end, later in the show, we'll get to the entertainment and how the entertainment has been coding a lot of this stuff for over 100 years, really. But yeah, scientists in the Netherlands say they are within 10 years of developing an artificial womb that could save lives of premature babies. Now, 2030 is that year, right? Like it's everywhere.
It's the most eventful year in the world. It's going to be the crazy, like everything's in 2030.
Everything seems to...
I don't know if it's true or not. I just know everything. It's like they just have to actually happens. I wonder.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, we all know about Agenda 2030 and Agenda 21 and how big the year 2030 is and how much is going to be changed by that year. And it's every element of society. But here's another example where they're saying by 2030, we're going to be able to do this. And they're already doing this. Like, it's already happening. So it's a matter of them, perfecting it to a certain extent, testing it out, being approved by various governments and whatnot, right? But they're already advanced enough to do this. They're already doing this, basically growing. They've been growing sheep and stuff like that already, and we'll show you that. So they say that they're within 10 years of developing an artificial womb that could easily save the lives of premature babies. Premature birth, and they always give you a reason, right? Premature birth before 37 weeks is globally the biggest cause of death among newborns. And isn't this ironic, Anonymous, when you think about it? Because right from J.S. Haldane, right, these are eugenicists that are largely behind this, and they're actually using the reason for doing this for saving more babies.
Yeah, I love how they always say that. It's always to save more lives, but really it's to make less life.
Yeah, no, it literally is about not just making less life, but making like designer elite lives,
Yeah.
new future human beings. So this is not I mean, I'm not saying everybody that would be involved in this, because there's probably a lot of good people, scientists, doctors, and stuff that partake in these things that believe that they're doing something to save people. But really, at the top of the pyramid, sort of thing, the real objectives of this is to create a future type of human beings and eliminate families. Like, we're going to show you this when we get into the whole feminist element here. But the development also raises ethical questions about the future of baby making. And then we meet Lisa Mandermaker. You had something on this character, right?
Just the name alone is hilarious.
Man, go ahead.
Just say it backwards. Maker the man.
Yeah, maker de man. So French is the kind of thing, duh.
Yeah.
So man the maker, or maker the man sort of thing. And she is, of course, the designer working at the here, the Maxima Medical Center, to create
333.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing here too is a film by Kayleen Devlin for 100 women. So I haven't looked at this 100 women. We'll just open up briefly here to take a little sneak at that. But this is probably the first elements where you're getting this feminist angle to it, because this is how they're going to sell it, folks. While they're doing the whole deconstruction of the family, dividing, toppling the patriarchy, pushing the women into lesbianism and all these other things, glass towers, work before mothers and all that. They're going to use this as a way of saying to women, it's okay, don't worry, you don't have to have a man, you don't have to, you don't have to do the dirty deed with a man, sort of thing. Well,
they're redundant now.
Yeah, they're redundant. And yeah, as you see, BBC 100 Women 2019, who is on the list? And so it's like one of these generic sort of, these are the women, the inspirational leaders of, tomorrow and whatnot. And then you've got all the AOC type characters, Brazil's AOC, dying to save Indonesia's coral reefs from plastic.
I think the avatars one is pretty interesting. Avatars, are we ready for our digital twins?
Yeah.
Bottom left.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Avatars, are we ready for digital twins? Yeah, and this is something I'm going to cover in a future show, which is nuts. It's like the virtual human beings, and they're going to have the same rights as humans and stuff, and they're going to live in emulations, and it's just nuts. But yeah, avatars, are you ready for digital twins? Of course, what's coming out soon is all the Avatar movies, right? Because James Cameron's been, and then you've got Greta Thunberg, of course, here. You've got the women fighting sexism and sumo. I mean, it's nuts. Sexism and sumo. And you think, well, sumo wrestling is such a historic thing in Japan, and obviously it's men, right? It's not like the men dress up in the Japanese dresses, and I don't know, probably today that's commonplace, but they have to attack everything. And why would a woman want to be a sumo? Because what they do with men too that are sumo wrestlers is, like, to get them to be sumo wrestlers, the parents have to get them at really young and practice pushing their balls up into the cavity that...
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's true, because they have to push their balls up to be able to fight, because they clash, they smash into each other, and you would what it's like when you get... Yeah, so it's nuts. Anyways. So very interesting. The first elements of feminism creeping into this, and we'll see a lot more of that. I can't play this, or maybe I can play seconds of it, but isn't this interesting? So you start off here again with the feminism here. I'm trying to remember exactly. You wouldn't imagine putting your baby in a plastic bag, right? I'll play a little bit. Is that sound coming through for you?
I don't hear it.
Okay, you don't hear it. It's okay. We're not really going to play it anyways.
Yeah.
But they're showing, to have your baby totally outside of the female uterus. So the uterus, of course, again, being used as a symbol of female power. And of course, with what's happening, when we think about feminism, the women's marches, along with the Time's Up, Me Too, and all that crap, is women are marching for the reproductive rights, which of course is the inverse of really reproductive rights. It's about the right to murder babies. So this all feeds into this is all part of their plans, basically, to have a future in which people do not copulate anymore. Right?
Yeah.
They showed this too. I mentioned it the other day in the film. I don't know if you've seen this one, Venomnymous, but it's called Demolition Man.
So long ago.
I just thought of it now because in the film Demolition Man, the guy from the past is still Sylvester Stallone, with the woman of the future is Sandra Bullock, and then she brings him over to her place and she says, "Do you want to have sex?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then she goes, "Okay, cool." And then she puts on this device on his head, and then she puts on a device on her head, and then they sit across from each other.
So it's like VR. They do it in
Yeah,
VR. Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah. Of course, in Woody Allen's film, not sure the tried, but the Woody Allen film Sleeper, they have the orgasmatron, right? So, which again, they're eliminating the need for copulation, basically. So
In the movie The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of his best buddies there has a virtual girlfriend and has this chair he sits in, and they do it and stuff.
yes, I remember seeing that way back when.
Man, there's a lot of programming in that movie. You watch the first 10 minutes, you see like agenda is like driverless cars, genetically modified foods. It's crazy. There's a bunch of them.
It was filmed in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken, too, right?
Oh yeah, I think so. The mountains look like totally Vancouver.
So this woman here in this thing is pushing the feminist angle about this too, saying, this is going to be great because you're going to be able to have a baby, being grown outside the uterus. And you can go on about the symbolism there. The first artificial womb for extremely premature. So they're using the whole thing about premature babies as the real reason for this, but don't mistake it for a second, folks. That is just a guise. It's not really what it's all about.
They just want to help you. That's all.
Yeah.
They just care so much.
Yeah. So these things here, they'd stick these babies in this solution sort of thing, and they would be their umbilical cord would be hooked up, as you see here, to these tubes that would be feeding all the nutrients and whatnot that the baby needs, instead of the mother, of course. And yeah, it's pretty crazy.
What is that like white stuff on the balloon? Is it like just like their logo or something?
No, that's like, I think that's the like sensors and stuff, right? To detect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would imagine. But there's really that is something that people probably feel really uncomfortable with. So this is what we're gonna see too, because we're gonna they're redefining sex. I talk about this all the time, right? Sex is like going back to, you go back 100 years, or you go back and you look through the New World Order and all the documents and all this. They talk about how they're going to redefine sex, and they're going to eliminate the whole copulation and births coming from sex, and they're going to turn sex into something that's just a pleasurable act. Of course, Brave New World, that's exactly what it is, right? The children are sexualized.
Yep.
Right?
Heavily, like just
heavily sexualized
from very early age. They have rudimentary sex play.
Yeah.
Hide the zipper. It's creepy as stuff. I've read that book, like, I don't know, I like read it like 4 or 5 times a year. I'm just obsessed with it. It's just crazy.
Well, I'm glad, because I haven't read it. I don't think I've read it since I was probably in high school or something. So I just remember vaguely a lot of the concepts in it. But it's good that you know, because it's going to come important. We're going to talk about Aldous Huxley here.
Yeah, there's a lot about that guy.
So yeah, here's one of the gynecologists here who's talking about it, and they, like maybe in his case, he wants to save premature. Like, I do believe there are good people that would be involved in these things, thinking that, what, we want to save these premature babies, right? We want to, and some people are like that. They want to. I mean, most of us, I hope,
they don't see what the bad part is. That's like, they can't see that. They just see what they're doing is they're trying to help people, and they don't realize what they're actually creating is a nightmare in the future.
This is kind of nuts too, because they have like these dummies.
Yeah, I saw that.
Let's just show that here.
I
and they're
thought I thought they were
pulling.
pulling out his wang when I first
Yeah.
saw it. I was like, what the hell?
It's so bizarre, right? So they're showing what would happen to a premature, that they would
It's
take
like
the preemie out and then they would stick it in a sack. This is so bizarre, right? It's so crazy.
only they could think up this stuff.
And then the baby here. So they connect it with the
Is it Wi-Fi ready?
yeah.
Is it 5G?
Yeah, exactly. It's already gender non-conforming. All right, that's it. So yeah, they show the umbilical cord that they use.
They got that placenta thing.
Hmm.
Do they use an actual placenta? That's what I was kind of wondering what that thing in the jar was.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so bizarre, eh? And then so the baby gets oxygen and nutrients via the umbilical cord, and then we keep the baby for several weeks, and then they move it into another one, right? Like they
They
pull it out of the
freaking
bag.
put it in an aquarium. It's ready
Yeah,
for a
they put her
swim.
in a bag. They're pulling it out of the bag.
Just drop it in the pool.
And then they give you this stat, like the BBC wants to save all these people.
Yeah.
Each year, approximately 50 million babies are born prematurely. So you see the reason for them doing this, that they're going to float, right? Oh, we're
And
going to
it's just
save.
it's and the thing is they create the problem because they have women having their first child way too late when they need to be having it much earlier, and then they wouldn't have anywhere
Hmm.
near the problems that they have now. That's a
Exactly.
huge reason why they're having so many premature babies and women dying during childbirth, because they're having their first kid after their 30s.
And they're being programmed into that, right?
Yeah.
Like that is normal. And so they have a woman here who, they've got a premature. I don't know if this is a baby that just died on day one. I guess it was a preemie. And I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah,
it's the
something like
whole.
that. Near the end of the lead lady there, she's like mentioned some of the you know it's not just natural birth, there's other options, and then she mentions
Oh
the
yeah,
gay
yeah.
community, of course.
Let's show you this then. We'll take a chance here. Aha.
A lifestyle choice.
Could become part of a lifestyle choice for women. Now, men burst too. It's interesting. One of the articles that I opened up had this thing on the side that said, should men be allowed, or should men be able to conceive babies? Of course, they've been coding that for so long as well. And then,
I
of
read one
course,
today about
y-
men.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you finish what your thought, and
Okay,
then I'll
yeah, they were
comment.
also saying for gay people, because
Yep,
she
that's a
actually
big one
says
too.
that, right? I think
Yep,
she
she
says that
says it
in
right
this.
near the end there. She
Let's
says it.
listen here.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Gay
Gay
men.
men.
You gotta get the gay men. Gay men gotta have the baby. You gotta have babies. Oh, it's nuts. Wow. And yeah, so all these agendas coming together, um, that are normalizing this sort of future of these types of test tube babies, basically CRISPR babies, because this is the CRISPR thing is huge, absolutely huge. This is going to change everything because they're already saying that it should be mandatory, that so the government should be able to, or the government should go in and genetically modify your babies, basically.
Ugh.
It's nuts. Okay. So let's move forward from that article. I had two of
What I
those.
was gonna say earlier that I was reading an article about they were talking about animal cruelty in the lab because they were talking about transplanting women's uteruses into men that want to have babies,
Mm-hmm.
and they were just talking about how difficult the process would be and stuff, and how cruel it would be for the animal, and just it just basically would point to how it would just be so much easier to have an artificial womb. They didn't say that, but that's basically what it would end up
Yeah,
being,
yeah.
because what you would have to do just to get a man to have a baby with a woman's uterus is just ridiculous. You got the immune suppressant drugs, the reshaping of the pelvic area. You got
Oh yeah,
it's just impossible. They got this. The only way to do it is
Yeah.
an artificial womb at this point.
So this article off Metro UK has a hilarious sort of.
He looks unsure.
He
Like, I don't
doesn't
know
look.
about this.
She looks happy. He's like,
He's like,
damn.
Is it even my kid?
It sucks. What? We're not even gonna have sex now?
Even...
It's like, what did I do? What did I marry?
She's like, I feel great. I'm so liberated.
Yes.
I can't wait to go to my.
Let's go home and watch the L Word. Human babies, and that's interesting too that they would call a show the L Word. Yeah, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that one. It's like that's an old one.
They're rebooting that show. So the L Word.
Okay.
If people don't know this, the L Word, you think, well, what is the L Word? I mean, anybody you go to, hey, what's the L Word? And there's only one word that you would think of with the L Word, right? It'd be love, right? Because that's the greatest word ever, sort of thing, right? Or what it symbolizes. But no, the L Word is lesbian, of course. But yeah, here you go. Human babies born using artificial womb possible in a decade. Again, the exact same timeline being pushed here.
Yep.
Where, it's 2030. So 2030 with all your Agenda 2030, everything that the driverless cars, right? The global warm carbon credits, everything.
The nanotech, the brain chips.
Yep, nanotech, exactly. All of this, transhumanism, all of it is focused. Well, at least that's their yardstick for now. Like that's where they're like, this is the big year.
This is our goal. We want to get this done by as soon as close.
And then when they get there, they'll have 2050.
Yep.
Right.
And then 2080 and then 2100.
Yeah, exactly. So the Agenda 21, because people sometimes get confused. The Agenda 21 is for 21st century. So it's like, but they're so far ahead that they did the Agenda 2030 and they said, well, we can actually achieve all this stuff by 2030. And then you just go to the 17 sort of sustainment development goals that they have. And you'll see all that, right? You'll see it's every element of society basically. So, but the tech is really crazy because if people aren't paying attention to like the nanotech and the brain chips and all this, because if you're not seeing this, because you can't go around thinking, and it's easy for us to fall into that things are just going to go on as they are, and like 50, 100 years from now, there'll be, married people with babies and families, and it'll just be kind of like today, except a little bit more bizarre. It's going to be so radically different. Yeah. It might be by 2030 that they ban, I think in many ways, Venomnymous, that they will ban traditional births.
I could see it happening just because, it's too risky.
Yes.
Yes.
And
they're just not going to let us live the way we want to live. We have to face it. We can't ignore it. They're not going to let us. At some point, they're really like, no, you cannot, you can't enjoy your life anymore. You're going to have to do exactly what we say. And having a viviparous birth is one of those things. Yeah,
exactly. And this is interesting because they do show the lamb that the premature lamb that they took and they grew in a bag, which I'm sure a lot of people have already seen. This is so
that Ziploc brand?
Yeah. Well, they show this in the movies too, and then the television shows, like Altered Carbon is one of them, and the recent sequel to Blade Runner had them growing clones in bags like this, and then they would drop to the floor. Really, really disturbing. Full-grown human clones, basically.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one yet.
You haven't seen? Okay, yeah.
Out.
I have that for later. I'll show it to you. It's pretty disturbing. But yeah, you've got here. It's interesting how they talk about surrogacy growing in awareness, particularly with Kim Kardashian choosing a surrogate for her third and fourth child. So the Kardashians.
I wonder why she did that.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe she has to get more ass injections. But yeah, these Kardashians are always part of this type of programming, obviously. And what's the difference? And they say here, what's the difference between contracting a person to carry your baby or contracting a machine? Well, I don't know. What's the difference?
There is no difference, apparently.
What's the difference? Well, you want a human being.
What's the
Go
difference
ahead.
of stirring your coffee with your spoon or a stapler? What's the difference?
Yeah.
Still gonna mix the drink.
Well, what's the difference between putting cream in your coffee or turpentine? What's the difference? The difference. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit different that a machine is giving birth to your baby than a human being. But yeah, but this is the programming, right? Because Kim Kardashian will probably be one of the first people to have one of these babies born this way. It actually was the celebrities. In fact, here in Quebec, the intro vitro or what is it? Vero fertilization. It was the first person in Quebec to get it was Celine Dion. And Celine Dion, of course, was recently in the new world sort of clothing line from Israel there, where she broke into a maternity ward in the commercial and blew this black sort of Saturn dust on all the children, and they all turned into mutants, or the babies. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy.
She blew the nanotech on them.
But they talk about there are two very different applications for these sorts of devices here, and they said it's nutrient-rich blood supply and amniotic fluid that is seen, and birth in a bag. So birth in a bag. It's hilarious. I'll just throw this.
Sounds like a slogan there. Like, get your birth in a
bag.
bag.
Yeah. Well, we should show that actually. That little clip that you found there. This one?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's show that. I can take a risk and show this. It's over 100 years old. It should be
fine.
Yeah, it should be fine. So this is something from 1930s.
There. It's from an awful movie from the 1930s called Just Imagine. It's the future is 1980, I believe, and it's a musical. Yeah. So I fell asleep trying to watch it. So,
so anyways, Insta Babies here. All right, hang on a second, because you may not be able to hear that, and I can hear it. I'm imagining the audience probably can.
If they can hear it, that's fine, because I've already heard it.
Okay, so I just thought I'd put the captions on here.
Sure.
Then it doesn't seem like they're giving me that option for some reason. Maybe it's
another interesting part of this movie is the government decides who you can marry.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so anyways, there's a couple here, and she's saying, just in case you didn't catch it, we've been married a year. Don't you think it's time? And he was like, sure, whatever. Yeah, I think so. And so they're at what do you want? A boy. So he puts in the coins.
Wow, only a quarter.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
But it is the 1930s. So.
Yeah, there you go. It's probably a few $1,000s now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, there you go. Interesting predictive programming of the future. And again, a lot of this stuff was foreshadowed. In fact, I have it here. Check this out. I'll show you this now. 1916, artificial womb appeared in cinema. Look at this.
That guy doesn't look sinister.
Yeah.
I want my babies from that guy.
This is the Dracula. Here's your obstetrician here. So, yeah, 1916, artificial womb appeared in cinema. So the image above is a screenshot from Homunculus here, a 1916 movie by Otto Rippert about a group of scientists who created a human in a lab. This superhuman, it's so small here, it's hard to see. I'm going to make it bigger. This superhuman here, so Superman, again, Nietzsche, and the rise of the Superman, and the child of the future, child of tomorrow, the children of the damned. In many ways, this has been a major theme of the New World Order for going back 100 years, where the new offspring of the children are going to inherit the earth, and they're going to be radically different from their parents. But so this Superman was simultaneously a master criminal and a Christ figure. The frame shows the fear and astonishment reaction of two villagers towards the lab-created human. This is the first time that an artificial womb was presented on screen. The part of the movie showing the birth of the human here. This is the scene here. I watched this. So we can play this here. I don't think there's any sound because it's 1916. This is before they had, whoops. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's before they had sound in cinema. And yeah, they show the artificial womb here, which is like a Roman column or something. It's really bizarre. This is it here. You see it.
Wow. What is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
This is a giant perfume bottle.
Yeah, it, that's right. Yeah, yeah, it's bizarre, right? And yeah, that's what they're growing the baby in. So you think, yeah, with Aldous Huxley, and I mean, Aldous Huxley was
Wow.
what 15 years later, kind of thing. At least,
Yeah.
so they had been thinking about this stuff for a very long time.
You probably watched this as a teen.
Yeah, probably.
It's like, yeah, that's a
And
good idea.
that's where the fetus is. It's in that.
Oh wow. It's a bowling ball.
Yeah, really nothing. Really not fucking crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, gently put it back in there.
Yeah.
Don't break the baby.
It does look like a giant perfume bottle. And look, they're blowing. Yeah, they're blowing on it. Like they've got one of those.
It's
Furnace
interesting. It's
blows,
like a,
yeah.
it's kind of like a big T on there.
Yeah,
It kind of reminds me of.
yeah. Also with
Yeah.
Metropolis, where they had the with the the movie Metropolis, Fritz Lang.
Nope.
It's like such a classic, but the in Metropolis, they show a future type of robotic human that is like and they show the world 100 years in the future kind of thing. And this was filmed in the 1910s or something, right? Around the same time this film came out. They show New York City and they show planes flying all over, and all the skyscrapers look like the Empire State Building except like 10 times bigger. And yeah, it shows future sort of robots existing amongst human beings, and being like the overlords sort of thing. It's really creepy in many ways.
I'm not surprised. They always when it's always these old films, it's always like a giant robot man that's the future.
Yeah, yeah. I'll put that in for a second. So Metropolis, you can see that Metropolis film. And yeah, it's 1927. And
Okay,
that's
I recognize that cover. I just don't think I've ever watched it.
yeah, that's the see here is
Okay.
like it's like a Frankenstein where
Well,
they're
actually,
bringing this.
It's actually pretty well done.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a fascinating film. It's a total classic and really.
I could actually watch that.
Isn't that interesting?
Was that a big satanic star? In the
Yeah, yeah,
background?
yeah, yeah,
Nice,
exactly.
Nice.
So I mean, like the New World Order and this is a future female here that they have.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so this movie definitely, if you haven't seen it, you might want to. Yeah, I think they transform a woman into. This is what they do. They take a woman and they hook her up with all these electrodes and put this massive machine around her, and this is
And then
how
they
she.
liberate her.
Yeah, they liberate her, and she comes out with the the 5-pointed inverted pentagram star here and the whole deal. Yeah, it's
just-
really, it's unbelievable, really. So I haven't
That's
seen it in
crazy.
so long.
That's actually looks really wicked. I
It
actually
is,
want
yeah,
to
yeah,
watch
yeah.
that. That looks cool.
Definitely check it out. Yeah, it's silent, but you could maybe it's on YouTube.
Oh, I bet. No doubt.
Let's just see if they have it, because sometimes when it's over 100 years old, they can.
Yeah,
can
like they got
upload those
they got
films.
this the Just Imagine.
Yeah, it's
movie.
there.
It's on,
Yeah, it's
online.
there. Yeah, you
It's
can
on
see it. So it's
Right on.
anyway. So interesting stuff. Brave New World. We should take a look at that now. You had a bunch of things on Brave New World that you highlighted here that we should take a look at. I know I have the screenshots of what you sent me.
Yeah, that's fine. I just
you-
like I like there's coding in there that's fun. With the
Is there anything I should bring up?
well, we're on the first page here, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so they just talk about the process of how they make the babies. They use it just goes into detail of that, but interesting. They have a thing called the Buchanovsky process, which causes the egg to bud, so they can make multiple clones of the one egg, and that's what they use for the lower classes. So the gammas, deltas, and epsilons.
Yeah.
They can get up to 96 in a batch, like per egg. They can get up to 96
Wow.
twins.
So they're talking here, the fertilizing room. Bent over their instruments, 300 fertilizers were plunged as the director of hatcheries And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, you know what it reminds me of when Saruman's growing the Urukai.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That they're hatching out of the slime or whatever, right? Um,
Even
so
that's more natural.
yeah. As the director of hatcheries and conditioning entered the room, where is it here? A troop of newly arrived students, very young, pink and callow. Each of them carried a notebook. I just want to see where they talk directly about the. Okay, so still leaning against the incubators, he gave them, while pencil scurried illegibly across the pages, a brief description of the modern fertilizing process. Spoke first, of course, in its surgical introduction, the operation undergone voluntary for the good of society, not to mention the fact that it carries a bonus amounting to 6 months' salary, continued.
So what that I think is if you give up your reproduction, like your placenta
Ah,
and stuff, if you give up your uterus and stuff, you get extra money.
right.
I think
Right.
that's what it's saying there. But that's
Uh,
interesting. They still have cash in this scenario.
yeah, yeah,
There'll be a more
really.
digital version of that for sure.
It's showing a lot of, like, it accurately predicted a lot. Here you've got yeah, you pointed out the 33 that they had coded in there, and so they say, so we allow as many as 30% of female embryos to develop normally. The others get a dose of male sex hormone every 24 meters for the rest of the course. Result: they're decanted as free martins, structurally quite normal, except he had to admit that they do not have the slightest tendency to grow beards. But sterile, guaranteed sterile, which brings us at last out of the realm of more slavish imitation of nature into a much more interesting world of human invention. And they had a character in this named Morgana Rothschild.
Yeah, they have actually quite a few references to people like George Bernard Shaw. He's actually mentioned in the book. One of his pieces was listened to by a child or whatever. And there's two characters. There's Bernard Shaw, or
Uh huh.
no, sorry, not Bernard Shaw, Bernard Marx, and then there's a Dr. Shaw.
Ah,
So
that's, yeah,
that's
that's the way they
three
do it.
times mentioning that guy because I believe Huxley was a Fabian socialist.
Wow. So here, on a very slow-moving band of rack full of test tubes was entering into a large metal box. Another rack full was emerging. Machinery faintly purred. It took 8 minutes for the tubes to go through, he told them. 8 minutes of hard x-rays, being about as much as an egg can stand. A few died. Of the rest, the least susceptible divided into two, mostly put out 4 buds. Some 8. All were returned to the incubators, where the buds began to develop. Then after 2 days, they were suddenly chilled, and checked. 2, 4, 8 buds in their turn budded, and having budded were dosed almost to death with alcohol, consequently bludgeoned again, and having budded out bud like the budded out of bud, um, and were there after being generally fatal, left to develop in peace, by which time the original egg was in a fair way to becoming anything from 80 to 96 embryos. Prodigious improvement, you will agree, on nature. Identical twins, but not piddling 2s and 3s as the viviparous days, when an egg would sometimes accidentally divide, actually by dozens, by scores at a time. So yeah, they're talking about the cloning and the mass production of these different classes of human beings that they use, and they breed. Now you're the one that will have to refresh me on this. If they had different alpha, betas, right, like deltas and whatever, right? They have the different categories of human beings that they develop for specific tasks.
Yes, the alphas. There's alpha. There's alpha plus and then alpha minus, beta plus, beta minus, and so forth.
Yeah.
Gamma, delta, epsilon. The alphas are the thinking ones, the ones that do the tougher jobs. The
Hmm.
betas are more like they deal with the hatcheries and stuff like that. They have important jobs, but not so important as the alphas. And then the gammas are like hotel receptionists and shit like that. Then you got the deltas, that just the working class, and then the epsilons are like the lowest of the working class. Like they'll just like wait on an elevator and stuff like that. They just do this the hard labor and stuff like that.
Okay, really.
But each one's like specifically the process for creating them is all different. Like what you were reading with the alcohol and stuff like that. They do it for the lower classes.
The lower classes,
and they don't buttify the betas and alphas. Those ones they just breed singly.
Okay, so and the lower classes are kept at a lower intelligence, right? Like
yes, and not just intelligence, but they also condition them for certain jobs.
Yeah, labor and stuff.
Yeah, so there's ones that they'll have when they're developing in the decanter. They'll have them like upside down, and then they'll starve them when they're right side up. When they're upside down, they feed them blood surrogate and stuff like that to condition them to because they work on like jets or something that they have to be upside down a lot. So they actually
God!
So they'll feel better that way. They also condition them with heat conditioning so that they can tolerate hotter climates. It's just crazy. Like I don't know.
That's nuts. All right,
I think it's way too detailed to just be a fictional thing. It's like
something
that they're planning.
It's like there was obviously a lot of
well thought out.
Yeah, a lot of experiments went into being able to corroborate that type of information. Here we've got on the history of artificial womb here from the Daily. This is the JSTOR, which is a journal. Is it an academic journal?
Yeah, something like that.
And will outside the womb gestation, increasingly viable for animal embryos, lead to a feminist utopia or something like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World? This is by Oscar Schwartz here.
Totally kosher.
Yeah, for sure. And again, they're showing the same lamb that was grown in a Ziploc. So in
Ziploc lamb.
Yeah, in 2017, a team of researchers at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia kept a pre-viable lamb fetus alive for 4 weeks in an amniotic sac, one designed to imitate the womb, which the developing embryo had been prematurely plucked. The fetus pumping heart facilitated the exchange of nutrients and other growth factors between the lamb and its environment. Researchers watched as the fetus developed in this artificial environment from pink alien-looking thing into a breathing, swallowing animal. They even say that it opens its eyes, which is really creepy. Imagine what it's thinking. Let me out of the bag. I want some milk.
This seems normal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just be grown in a lab. That's nothing. Yeah, nothing to be alarmed about.
Where's mom?
I guess mom's gonna be Hal.
Yeah. You are not ready to be born yet. Hold on.
As news of the artificial womb spread, and some suggested that the medical device designed to eventually help severe premature human babies, or so they say, was a step toward a future imagined by Aldous Huxley's 1932 novel Brave New World. Huxley depicts a world in which embryos are fertilized in test tubes, chemically arranged in hierarchical social biological groupings, from alphas who go on to take the most important roles in society to epsilons, a slave caste that who work in large. The epsilons would be all like the popular YouTubers today. Jeffree Star. Anyway,
yes, he was definitely created in a lab.
Yeah. So a slave caste who work in large crematoriums, mining phosphorus from burnt human remains.
There's your fertilizer.
Wow. And then brought to term in the hatchery. This is crazy too, because again, they give you a false dichotomy here. It's like, is it going to be, is it going to lead to a feminist utopia, or is it going to be Aldous Huxley? I mean, like, both of those are pretty awful.
Yeah, like they're not beneficial to everyone either.
Yeah,
way.
No, they're freaking horrible for most of humanity. unless you're an angry, militant dyke. And then you're probably still going to be angry anyways. You're never going to stop being angry because the telly's
No.
going to tell you that you're a victim of everything. But yeah, that's wow. It's nuts. It's nuts. So controversial and influential was Huxley's vision that even today, almost 90 years later, any technology that supports the life of a fetus outside of a womb is almost inevitably linked to with his dystopia. An artificial womb is taken as a signifier of technological stratified future, one in which we give up our last and most profound connection to evolutionary history, to our animal ancestors, and to each other. But why? But what many don't know is that Huxley's dystopia was actually the end point of a decade-long debate among some of Britain's most prominent scientists, philosophers, about the possibilities and dangers of artificial wombs. Due to the scientific advances of the time, many of these eminent thinkers believed that this revolutionary technology was just around the corner. And while for Huxley this was a terrifying prospect, for many of his more radical contemporaries, like the characters that we've covered, some of them at least, it was just the opposite. And then, of course, they're mentioning JBS Haldane here, of course. So, and then they've got this other English philosopher here, Charles K. Ogden here.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then they mentioned George Bernard Shaw, which is really interesting.
That guy.
Virginia Woolf.
you gotta watch that video of Bernard Shaw talking about if you're not useful, well, we'll have to kill you, basically. There's a good
again, another well-known eugenicist, right?
Fabian socialist. He's like
Fabian
the face of Fabian socialism.
Wow. They said Ogden here considered himself an intellectual emancipator. And then he invited these George Bernard Shaw, Virginia Woolf. Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf? Ludwig Wittgenstein, and gave them permission to speak about whatever they wanted. The purpose was to be nonconformist, shocking, and provocative. And then they get into the JDS sort of book that we mentioned before, and all of that. And then they say here, look at this: by freeing women from the necessity of pregnancy, sex. They got to free women from sex. It's just awful, isn't it, women?
No, they don't get pleasure at all from it. They hate it.
No, they hate it. Every single one of them.
It's torture.
Yeah. So freeing women of the necessity of pregnancy, sex, and reproduction would be uncoupled, which would drastically change the imbalance of power in society, suggesting that there's a horrible problem, of course, and then it needs to be fixed. And of course, the horrible problem is horny men. I guess toxic masculinity. So again, when you think of the toxic masculinity narrative that is pushed along with the feminist girl power everywhere you look, right? And then the characters like the insufferable, what's his name there from Montreal? I'm trying to think of his name, who puts out the toxic masculinity books and that are instant New York Times bestsellers. This narrative, this is a lot of where it comes from. Like a lot of it comes from a vision of the New World Order in the past about how they would take complete control of human reproduction. Yep. So we're at that precipice now. It's already happening. The CRISPR babies is ginormous. It changes everything, along with these artificial wombs and along with the nanotech and, of course, the brain chips. All of these things, all these ugly things coming at once, and all advancing, rapidly in terms of how far they've pushed this down the field, sort of thing. It's
like an orc army coming for us right now.
Yeah,
all this freaking thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then here we get into another article here, which I believe this one you sent to me as well. Yep. Here, opinion: are artificial wombs a feminist tool for liberation? Liberation
from what? Being a human being.
I gotta let him out of the basement, Venomnymous.
We've been locked up.
Yeah, it's nuts though. Again, because look, understand how media manipulation works, folks out there, because they want people to embrace this type of non-procreation. right? So they are definitely programming women into lesbianism and into hating men and into desiring a toppling of the patriarchy,
It's
which has been long toppled anyways,
it's
right?
not even just hating men, hating children.
Yes.
They're separating that beautiful bond between a woman and a child that is just one of the most sacred things you could ever have in the world, and that's the one thing they're trying to destroy the most. I think not just men. Men are easy to for that agenda, but I think the babies is a huge one. They want the babies to go over to the state,
We got to
and
eat the babies.
yeah, because in this article it says it talks about how even though the artificial wombs will help liberate women from having childbirth, it's still not enough because then you have to take care of the kid. Basically, is what it's saying there. We'll get to that part though. I don't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to get.
yeah. You see, right? It's like we gotta solve every. Again, give me convenience or give me death. The whole process of having babies is what makes women women, mothers mothers, and humans humans. We've all gone through this process. And yes, childbirth, I can't imagine how painful it is for a woman to go through it. But you also can't imagine, as a male, how joyous it is for a woman to actually successfully give birth, and what that means. I mean, that's often the most special time of any woman's life is, holding their newborn baby for the first time, and those memories and the intimacy that you have. Right, Vanas, you have kids, right?
Yep, I've
Haven't
experienced it. It's one of the most magical things ever.
exactly.
Um, and you feel the pain of your significant other when they're going through that
Yeah.
pregnancy, when they're going through the birth. It's hard.
Well, that's
But
that's why it's a joint thing too,
yes,
because the
it's
the
a
hus-
yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
it's
Sorry.
a it's a it's an experience. It's like trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
It's not something you want to give up. It's part of being human. It's part of being an animal in this world.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
biology of just creating life, and they're trying to steal that.
And again, too, like creating life, because the God sort of principle comes into play here, because like when you procreate and your woman gives birth, right? You're not playing God. You're just living, right? You're the way every other sort of organism lives on the planet. This is how the birds, the bees, the flowers, the trees, everything repopulates itself, and the whole balance in nature happens. Uh, when you are creating life like they will be, and they are already at a certain point, right, with the test tube babies and all this, that's a different thing. You are literally playing God. Like, you are literally CRISPR babies, these like gene editing test tube babies, the whole thing. You've taken out the whole natural process of life, and you've introduced complex machines and science and all these things. And, it raises a lot of ethical questions. And again, you have to think, folks, in the future, think about it, because people like Jeffrey Bezos and Ray Kurzweil and many others, Bill Gates, are likely cloning themselves, multiple times over, sort of thing.
Oh,
So
please no.
yeah, yeah. Just think about that though for a second. Now we know that, look, cloning is 100% real. Cloning is so real that you can, right at this point in time, and this has been like this for like 5 years at least. You can clone your dead dog or cat right now. You know that, right, Anonymous?
Yes. Yep.
So I'll just show
Is it,
this to folks, just in case you don't.
isn't it called like Clonate or something?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Dog cloning. We'll just show you that. Here's Viagen Pets. Right? So there's a website here that's doing this, and there's like thousands of people that are getting this done. So, and they make a perfect replica, or they make a perfect clone of your dead animal, basically.
In the movie The Sixth Day, they had dog like pet cloning, and they like were if you get it in fast enough, they could put the memories in it too.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty
Wow.
crazy.
I have to watch that again.
Yes, check that out. Like
Yeah.
first 10 minutes, you'll see it all right there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I believe that's Arnold Schwarzenegger in that one, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the dog cloning is a reality, which means that anybody now commercially, you can spend your money here, start genetic preservation, right? They tell you the whole how much it costs, and it costs a lot, right? It's like $40,000 or something like that to get a dog clone, but they'll clone you your dog. Now, just think about that. If they're cloning dogs, there's no doubt that they can clone humans. It's a fait accompli. They can clone humans,
Yeah,
and they
it's
can
a
clone.
mammal. We're mammals. There's no
Yes,
reason why
there's
we
no
can't be cloned
difference.
too.
No difference. Dogs, we're not more complicated than dogs. We're not more complicated than other mammals. Like we're biologically almost the same in many ways. So if they're doing this and they're doing it with 100% success with dogs, they are definitely doing this with humans. Now the whole thing is that it's not legal at this point in time. I don't see how it could be to clone humans, but we have to anticipate that this is being done. And like a lot of people would think that younger celebrities and stuff could have clones and could be clones and whatnot. And they could clone now with this gene editing. So they could take movie stars' DNA. All you need is a skin cell, basically, to be able to do it. And you could create clones of umpteen different sort of characters and then bring them up with the MK Ultra style mind control and the brain chips and whatever else, and you would have your perfect puppets. So it's not, it might already be at that point where we have this amongst our celebrities. A lot of the younger sort of phenoms that are coming up from the Mickey Mouse Club and stuff like that could be these early sort of prototypes of this. So again, you got to think about this in the very near future, the reality of clones existing amongst us, and then what rights would these clones have? What status in society would they have, and how would they be treated? Well, they more than likely be idolized, in my opinion, because that's what the New World Order would want. So I think we're facing a future which could be very terrifying. And again, I'm not going to talk about the emulated sort of human consciousness in computers. I'll do that for another podcast because that's a whole nother can of worms that'll spook the bejesus out of everyone listening. But let's just talk about physical clones existing, right? And where, what's going to happen? What is going to happen if there's like 1,000 Bill Gates clones?
I'd fight them all.
You'd win too. One hand tied behind your back. It took 1,000 Bill Gates clones, and still they're all dead. Yeah. No, that's the thing though, is that the elites will be able to make so many different. They're not just going to make clone versions of themselves, but they're going to make emulated versions, virtual versions of themselves in computers, which they showed in the film Transcendence with Johnny Depp. Which have you seen that film?
No.
Yeah, folks out there might want to check out this film called Transcendence. I think it's from 2016, and it's one of those films that's guised as some sort of sci-fi dystopia, but really it's Agenda 21, and it's very pro transhumanism. In fact, none other than what's his name, Elon Musk himself, appears in the film cheering on. He's in the audience, sort of thing.
Of course, right? he's legitimate character.
Yeah. I think he is. Him and Zuckerberg strike me as already having the chips. But yeah, so these are scary sort of things because in that film, Johnny Depp is a scientist who, gets there's an attack against him, a terror attack. So he's dying of some poisoning in a system. So he transfers his consciousness into a supercomputer, and then he becomes far more intelligent than every human being on the planet times a million type thing, and he starts doing all this stuff through he starts building these massive cities out in the desert where he's erecting gazillions of frickin' solar panels, and he's got all these labs underneath the earth, underneath the ground, that he's experimenting with nanotech and animal human hybrids and whatever else. But
how's
in the end,
doing?
sorry?
Is he like how's he doing? Is he like, does he have like people doing it for him, or is
he actually he gets human beings and he injects them with nanotech, and they become superhuman beings.
Oh my goodness!
They come like soldiers, but they have super strength, and he
of course
he almost like a Jesus figure too in the film, where he's curing people's ailments. And then so the whole film builds up like he's out of control and he's going to destroy the world, sort of thing, and we have to stop him. But in the end, of course, and I'm going to spoil it here. You might want to stop for a second if you don't want to have the movie spoiled. You don't care. In the end, he's actually trying to save the planet.
Of course, he's a good guy.
Yeah, of course, and of course, Elon Musk is nerds. There. Yeah,
freaking nerds. They just want to be superheroes, and this is all about like just their little fantasy. I want to be strong.
Yeah, I can't be strong, so I'm gonna make a super robotic version of myself.
I'm gonna get everyone's DNA and get the best genes. And
make
a clone of myself, and I'm gonna be strong.
Well, that's what they'll do too, because they show that in Altered Carbon, and I haven't seen that, which a lot of people have told me about. Which it's like downloading human beings into sort of AI programs and then regrowing themselves or growing.
Yeah, they call them like skins or whatever, right?
Yeah, something like that. And in Altered Carbon, it's much like what you saw with the lamb in the bag, right? And you see this over and over again. In fact, where do I have it here? Let's just see Altered Carbon. I'll just put that in for a second.
You got to read the plot for that one, the TV show, because it's interesting. That like it has to do with, it even says New World Order in it.
Yeah, you see here, right? Much like the lamb in the bag. Altered Carbon with the as above so below and the hexagon symbol here, the Saturn symbolism, and you've got your new bodies in the bags. I have not seen this, but we'll just see what you said there about.
Check out the plot, and it's on Wikipedia. It'll tell you the.
All right, so here, Altered Carbon. Altered Carbon is an American cyberpunk web television series created by Leta Kalogridis. And it's based on a 2002 novel by the same title by English author Richard K. Morgan, and probably a BBC worker, in a world where the consciousness can be transferred to different bodies. So this guy, Takeshi Kovacs, a former soldier turned investigator, must solve a murder. So yeah, I guess that's. I know it's probably
scroll down
a
bit because there's a part in the plot. It tells you.
Oh yeah, okay. It's synopsis here. The series takes place 360 years in the future, with most episodes set in the year 2384. So kind of like a 1984 spin in a futuristic metropolis known as Bay City. In the future, a person's memories and consciousness can be decanted into a
What? Brave New World.
The disc-shaped device called a cortical stack. Oh boy, I wonder what that looks like, which is implanted in the invertebrae or the vertebrae at the back of the neck, much like the Elon Musk brain chips. These storage devices are of alien design and have been reverse engineered and mass produced. Physical, human, or synthetic bodies are called sleeves.
Oh, sleeves. Okay.
Yeah. And stacks can be transferred to new bodies after death. But a person can still be killed if their stack is destroyed. While this theoretically means anyone can live forever, only the wealthiest, known as the meths, which is a reference to Methuselah, which is the biblical patriarch and figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, said to have died at the age 969, 666 sort of thing there. He lived the longest of all figures mentioned in the Bible. Wow. I'll have to research that. But have the means to do so through clones and remote storage of their consciousness in satellites. Yikes. I'm going to have to watch this.
Yeah, read that next part. I'm interested in that part.
Takeshi Kovacs, a political operative with mercenary skills, is the sole surviving soldier of the Envoys, a rebel group defeated in an uprising against the New World Order.
There you go.
250 years after the Envoys are destroyed, his stack is pulled out of the prison of a 300-year-old meth Lawrence Bancroft, one of the wealthiest men in the settled worlds. Bancroft gives him the choice to solve a murder and all that. So yeah, wow. And yeah, it's all in the gaming. I haven't been able to do it, but I'm gonna try to get through the Detroit Become Human game there that I have, which deals with transhumanism and robots and all that. There's just so much that we're getting. The robots as well. We don't really talk about that too much, but that's something to pay attention to, because they're implementing robots in our society and they're giving them human status, like they did in Saudi Arabia with that talking toaster thing. You know the robot I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, all these movies, there's a bunch of them. There's one here called Ectogenesis here, which is from it's actually from the show Helix. Have you heard about this show?
No.
So they've got a show called Helix, and they're using this symbolism here in Rainbow Unicorn Land. Helix. I don't know if it was Camille who was talking about that the other day. But yeah, in this particular episode of the show Helix, they have ectogenesis, an episode called Ectogenesis. And of course, we know what ectogenesis is, which is artificial wombs, basically. Babies being born outside the womb. So this was from 2015, March 2015. There's other films here. There's one called Tomorrow's Child here from 1982. I haven't seen this one either. The wife of a research geneticist agrees to the experimental procedure of a test tube baby by having her fetus brought to full terms in a glass jar in a laboratory. And you've got this one here from 1976. Another one I haven't seen called Embryo. A scientist doing experiments on a human fetus discovers a method to accelerate the fetus into a mature adult in just a few days.
That's an important thing for them.
Yep.
The speeding up the maturation of the child. They got to get the growth up there to get their get them developed fast, because that's a big problem. In a Brave New World, they're trying to find a way to grow them faster with it and keep them
full grown,
intelligent and functional. Yeah.
Yeah, in the movie Blade Runner 2049. I'll just show you that. Blade Runner 2049 birth scene. People may have seen this here. It's quite disturbing here, where they have this they don't show it dropping out of the bag here. Maybe it's in this one. Yeah, this is a really creepy sort of thing. But yeah, they show the birth of a clone here. Now, this character that Jared Leto plays here is some kind of cloned replicant.
Got so fancy eyeballs.
Yeah, the replicants in the original Blade Runner were synthetic human beings that were grown, but had, they had extra strength and power and stuff, but they had a limited life span, so they would die after like 6 years, and they did that on purpose to prevent them from, becoming really dangerous sort of thing. So yeah, this guy here becomes a rogue sort of replicant who has this master sort of plan, and in this they show here the birthing of a clone. It's quite disturbing here, where they have a female, and again the same thing where it's grown in a bag,
Ziploc
flop. Yeah,
it shoots up.
It's birthing in the future, folks. 2030. 2030.
So advanced.
Yeah. It's
Is there a reason why it's so dark, or they just can't afford the lighting?
Well, it's a movie, right? But there is, this is the birth of a female clone here, or female replicant / clone.
She looks like a dude.
Yeah, I have short hair and all that, but yeah, she stands up. She's a woman sort of thing. I can't show that because it's nudity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I remember seeing this and I was like, and of course, yeah, we're seeing this symbolism all over. In fact, when we go through some of these articles, you're going to see the exact same symbolism popping up here. So again, the whole notion about feminism, right? So much of how they're selling this to the masses is that it's going to be women's lib, and so women's lib. And again, everyone out there, like the real important thing to understand, right, is the complete deconstruction of the family. The Fabian socialists, as we mentioned before, I mean, this has always been one of the cultural Marxism, right? One of the tenets of cultural Marxism is the deconstruction of the family unit. So this all feeds into it. Make no mistake, they want to not only destroy the family unit, but they want to erase it from memory. Like people in the future that will be born like what you just saw there, like from a bag or something like that, will have no concept of family. And history will be rewritten, of course, constantly, like in 1984, by
And that's
Melinda
another
Gates.
thing.
It'll be Melinda Gates clones.
That's the thing in Brave New World. They destroy history. They destroy books. They destroy monuments and museums.
Mhm.
All of that.
Just like we have with Amazon and Amazon Fire and Amazon Kindle, the future digital books. And I think it was you that sent me that article there, which I showed in a live stream, where it was like one of the publishers that had re-released all these classics
Yep.
with all the black and ethnic minorities on the covers, sort of thing, like Frankenstein.
Yep.
So
apparently it's just the covers. It wasn't even the story. So I think that was largely just to piss people off. I don't
you're right.
They were gonna actually release it. They just like put it out there, just to have a fight go on.
Exactly. That's exactly what they do. Over and over again is they push the envelope a little bit further and they test us and they get us, they provoke us into reaction, but then it softens the blow of what they're bringing. So if you show people what you're going to do a little bit before you actually do it, then when it actually happens, that's what the predictive programming and all that kind of goes into. Where were we here? Is there anything in this article that maybe you might want me to,
there's just some just kind of like the way they describe giving birth, like shitting a pumpkin, and they just like shit on the whole process, just.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's read this then though. This is nuts. Oh my gosh. This is crazy. While some women experience pregnancy and childbirth as joyful, natural, fulfilling, others find themselves recoiling in horror. Okay, women in the chat, chime up, chime in here. Recoiling in horror at the physical demands of care. I mean, every woman that I've talked to who's given birth will say, yeah, there's a lot of pain, but it's an unbelievable experience. So anyways, recoiling in horror at the physical demands of carrying and sustaining, of course, a child in their womb. I mean, and again, too, that can be a very pleasant thing for a woman. It's physically demanding, but you're built to be able to withstand that, women, and having a baby, kicking in your womb sort of thing. And oh my God, it's kicking. It's like, those are golden moments, right? Venomnymous, right?
Absolutely.
So
yeah, it's important. It's an important part of a woman's womanhood.
Yes.
That's something special and unique to them. We can't do that.
Yes. Well, I mean, you can experience it in a way. You can put your hand on your wife's
we can just
belly.
be there for them and support them. That was what family is all about, just being a support system and being together. But they've broken us all apart, so now it's an awful experience for a woman because they often have to be alone now.
Mm-hmm. All right, so sustaining a child in their womb, and even more so at the potential brutality of giving birth. So giving birth is brutal. Some might view the blood, sweat, and tears as a necessary, unavoidable part of life. Others, such as radical feminists, Shulamith Firestone. Oh my God! I wonder. I mean, that's a very fitting name. Writing in her book, New York Times bestseller, undoubtedly, The Dialectic of Sex, assumes a less forgiving view of the process as barbaric or akin to shitting a pumpkin. Wow.
I know, just complete detest for the whole process, and just like referring to babies in that way is just sick.
Wow, this is the book here. A Landlark Manifesto. Says Susan Faludi of The New Yorker. Yeah, I wonder. Wow. So these are the case for a feminist revolution. The dialectic of sex. And again, look, men aren't really to blame for any of this. It's just the way that we were all here because of that. Right? I mean, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe in some ways men have it easier. But in other ways we have it a lot harder, right? I mean, yeah, I would say probably childbirth is the most painful thing a human being can endure, or amongst the most painful things. But the joy and the emotional sort of maturity that you go through, having gone through that process, obviously makes you into a special person, a mother, a stronger person, and it gives you the tools to move forward. But it's like, in many ways, some creature like this Firestone demon here would be blaming men for women having to go through, the whole procedure of carrying a baby in the womb and, and then shitting the pumpkin,
Yeah.
So yeah, just nuts. Of course, Verso with the red V here as the publisher. So, whatever one's position on the matter of naturalness of pregnancy, it can't be denied that the development of artificial womb technology known as ectogenesis would radically change the debate. First, there would be therapeutic benefits it promises. Women prone to risky pregnancies could transfer the fetus to an artificial womb, thereby allowing the fetal development to continue. Yeah, but it's not in your body anymore. And now the machine is the mother, and
there's the bond there.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, what if the baby starts hugging the refrigerator or something, right? Starts going to the television saying, "Mommy, mommy." And I understand, like I do understand. I am sympathetic to women that would have, even when it comes to abortion, I'm in favor if a woman's life is in danger, sort of thing. I would be in favor of abortion in those cases. I know people.
There's situations where I don't know, like I wouldn't know what to do in that situation myself if I was a girl in that situation. It's just not something you can just dismiss completely.
Exactly. So, could transfer the fetus to an artificial womb, thereby allowing the fetal development to continue at little cost to their own physical health. Likewise, fetuses at risk of premature birth could be transferred to artificial wombs to complete their development as required. The blood, sweat, and tears, it seems, might not be so intrinsic to the process after all. Well, we have no evidence of whatsoever to counter that. Meaning that there is no history of people being born outside of the womb. So you can't just come in and say, well, we don't have to go through that anymore. But of course, that's what they want. Second, the technology could have an important social benefits for women. For Firestone, artificial wombs would eliminate the crucial condition that currently ensures women's opposition by neutralizing the heavily gendered process of see, it's the toxic masculinity, Venomnymous.
That's right.
Again and again. It's our fault. We have heavily gendered the process of reproduction.
That's right. It was our way to enslave them the whole time.
Yeah.
Put a uterus in them.
Damn, we would have got away with it if it weren't for you. If it weren't for you, Miss Firestone. Feminists. Yeah, you meddling feminists. They got us. The Scooby-Doo. She argued that this, so though there exist indisputable biological differences between the sexes, she argued that this difference becomes oppressive. The unfair division of the reproductive labor and its naturalization through the ideal of the nuclear family. Again, that's their target.
See, with the nuclear family, you work together, and it's easier for both of you because like the father would bear the burden and provide for the lady during her.
And that builds your relationship.
Exactly.
That builds the bond. That's where the true love and support and that's what they're trying to deconstruct. So always remember, folks, the New World Order is trying to destroy families. It's in everything. All their movies, everything. They're coding this. It's all part of how they are going to take control of human reproduction, because ultimately this is what it's about. They'll sell it to you like, hey, we're going to save women who have complications. We're going to save the premature babies. We're going to say, like they really want to save millions of more people when they're desperately trying to depopulate us by every method possible. This is really the long-term plan. And as I said, where they had one of the MPs in the British Parliament recently come forth and say that we should make it mandatory. I mean, it's so nuts when you think about it that CRISPR gene editing should be mandatory, that the government should have a right to come in and genetically modify your baby in the womb, sort of thing. It's just so
once they're not in your womb anymore, it's pretty much the government's.
Well, then it's you're already many steps beyond that, but it's not.
It's where it starts.
So yeah, they say the oppressive and unfair division of reproduction of labor and its naturalization through the ideal of the nuclear family. But if fetuses were to develop in artificial wombs, women would finally be free to pursue their interests and desires outside of reproductive duties. What if your interest and desires are to be a mother? I mean, like, I mean, that's the natural sort of thing about women. That's why they're trying to get dolls to boys and all that, normalize that whole mindset sort of thing. But I mean, it's like every little girl in the past used to grow up wanting to be like their mother. I mean, that's what they wanted to be, is have babies and be a mother sort of thing. But now
my daughter's the girliest girl you'll ever meet.
That's good.
She's just naturally that way. Like I never tried to influence anything about it, but she's just super girly. She just loves dolls and cute little stuffy animals and stuff like that. Just totally girl.
And that's wonderful, because that's means she's going to be a great mother, right?
Yep, no doubt. She's already got that kind of like mothering thing going on with
exactly.
The dolls.
And think of
that's
it.
That's what
folks.
the dolls are for. It helps them.
Yes. I mean, the whole thing. That's why girls play with dolls and boys build tree forts, kind of thing, right? Because that's what we're naturally supposed to do. Boys are, I mean, not every boy. Some boys are gonna want to dress up as girls and stuff like that, and you just got to take them aside and you know, maybe give them a spanking, set them straight. No, whatever, right? But most boys, if you let them be boys, they're gonna do boy things, and most girls, if you let them be girls, they're gonna do natural girl things, because that's the nature of being a woman. The nature of being a woman is to be nurturing. It's to be a mother, to be a provider, to nurse a baby, to breastfeed, to do all these things. And that's what they're trying to eradicate. So they've always been trying for so long to equate motherhood as prison, and you know, women as being
kids as awful messes, and just burden on you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they can be trying, but I mean, they're not horrible.
Yeah, no.
It's just the process of life,
right? And the more you put in, the more you get out, right? It's like any relationship, right? If you really love your children and you raise them well, they'll turn out to be really good people, sort of thing. So, you know.
Yeah, and they're going to be wiping your butt when you're old. You're an old person. So I mean, it's an investment, really, in the future.
Yeah, and again, that's the natural cycle of life, right? You know, I mean, that's what. So anyways, even a cursory overview of the therapeutic and non-therapeutic potential of artificial wombs seems to present a compelling case in the technology's favor. Add this to a list of the many more people for whom it would make reproduction possible, the gay couples undoubtedly, and this becomes near airtight. What? Look at this. Imagine it's called Undark. Undark? What? What kind of? Oh, this is just evil. So in 2017, when researchers successfully developed 8 lamb fetuses in bags mimicking the conditions of the sheep's uterus, the mainstream media was hardly the mainstream media attention was hardly surprising. Despite the researchers' best efforts, their findings were recast as advancing the development of artificial wombs, and through this process, decades-old arguments such as Firestone's were thrust back in the spotlight. And then she wrote this paper here. It's true that Firestone's claims are still, well, I mean, the name alone, I mean, it just screams NWO shill. Satanic piece of scum. Claims
brimstone.
Yeah, exactly. They always do that. Like you look at for instance, you look at the alt media on the right. They always use the fire symbolism. All of them. The blaze, right? It's just always, all the time. You have PragerU with his fireside chats. That guy, man. Oh my God. Anyways. Firestone's claims are still well supported among contemporary feminists. For example, philosopher Anna Smajdor, in her paper Moral Imperatives for Ectogenesis, the moral imperatives. Like it's imperative. It's imperative that we have ectogenesis.
It has to happen. It's a moral imperative.
Brave new world. But the renewed excitement surrounding artificial wombs obscures the fact that the technology's emancipatory potential. That's what it is. emancipatory potential for screaming angry dykes and gay men to have babies is in reality quite limited. For one, artificial wombs could ensure the fair redistribution of reproductive labor only if this labor was limited to the process of pregnancy itself. But
There we go.
yeah, there you go. Now you got to play mother. That's just awful.
Oh shit!
Awful.
You gotta raise the kid too.
You want to be off in that glass tower, you know, getting angry and drinking your, Soylent Green or whatever.
Artificial was not enough. We need an artificial home or something.
Yeah. We how awful it is that women actually, you know, have to be mothers. It's just the worst thing ever. So, anyways, post-birth, it remains true that it's largely women. Yeah, and again, what do you expect? Somebody has to go to work. Somebody has to pay the bills. Oh, those toxic males. This toxic male, they're going to slave all day. So the woman,
it's so fun to go work all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, wonderful. So it remains true that largely women who are expected to breastfeed. Yeah, I guess because men don't have breasts or can't produce milk. Pump milk and raise and nurture the child. This doesn't preclude those others who can and do partake in what is traditionally regarded as maternal work from the conservation, but it does remind us of the stigma and censure directed at those women who do not, whether by choice or otherwise. In this context, it's unclear whether artificial wombs would do to address the social conditions that make reproduction so oppressive. Oh my God. I'm sorry. These people they're just evil people. That's all you can say.
They hate you.
They hate all of us. They hate us. They want to make you think that being a mother, reproducing and being a mother is oppressive. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And how many women out there that can't get pregnant would give their arm and their leg to just have a baby, right?
There's a growing amount.
Yeah, unfortunately, right? And it's tragic, it's terrible. But I mean, like to equate, and again, it's all from an angle where it's men that are the reason. It's all a patriarchy, and this is all because of men. It's like no. None of us, zero, except the clones and the characters that they might have created in these bags already, but that's, we're still not quite at that point. But none of us would be here. None of us would be here without men going to work and building the societies that we live in. I mean, I talked about that when I was talking about the feminist marches, and I'm saying men built the streets that you're on. Men built the roads. They built the towers. They built the subways. Now,
we couldn't do any of it without mothers. Yeah,
none of us would. Okay, at the end of the day, like the Tina Turner song there, it's a man's world, but it would be nothing without women. Absolutely. The thing is that we do what we are biologically constructed to do. Men are biologically constructed to be strong and to do physical labor and mental labor, because we're very smart, right? But so are women, equally smart in different ways, sort of thing. But we are designed to be the laborers, the workers,
the hunters.
The hunters, the gatherers.
So if you go back in time, it wouldn't be jobs; it'd be out hunting to bring food. And
it's the exact same.
It's the same thing. Yeah,
it's just a different way of doing it, right? And yeah, and I showed that with the CBC where they had that hideous old creature where she's like, "Man, the hunter is bullshit." It's like, what? Yeah, women were right there. How could they be there if they have babies? They can't be there if they have babies. It's impossible. Where were the children then? Who's taking care of the children?
In the artificial womb.
Yeah, right. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's not that no women ever hunted or anything like that, but come on. I mean, let's be serious, right? But this is the rewriting of history and the restructuring and the programming of women. I mean, this is a problem because women are coming up. Look, the cultural Marxists, we talk about the Fabian sort of society, the cultural Marxists, and it's academia where this stuff manifests. It's the worst because academia is where all these SJWs are coming from. So, 100 plus or nearly 100 years of Fabian socialists invading all of our universities to get people to go into angry black, lesbian, non-gender conforming militant dyke degrees which they promote in this day and age, right? I mean, this is how it works. All the grants are given to the feminist sort of doctorships and whatever else that they can pursue. So it's all about the deconstruction of the family, right? It's all about the deconstruction and and also, of course, massively programming women into this state that being a mother is a life sentence, or it's something awful. And
then at the same time they're pitting their kids against their parents. Like, the government is just cases like where they emancipate the child because the dad refuses to accept their pronouns or something like that. And then, you just get a bunch of stories. You get the Parkland, Greta Thunberg. She had to tell her parents what to do and stuff like that. Just turning it over like that. They're liberating the children by pitting them against their parents and against adults.
Okay, so like the New York Times bestseller sort of books that they would sell to mothers on how to raise their children, where they're trying to program women into thinking, mothers into thinking, you have to ask the baby for permission to pick it up.
That's right.
Right.
Like, I remember that.
And there's so many of these that come out, right, where it's like, no, we've been doing it wrong all along. What do you mean we've been doing it wrong all along? What? But that's what they want us to believe. They want us to believe that the traditional way of raising kids is all wrong. Now, we show this all the time. I don't need to show it right now, but I've shown this especially a lot recently, where the parents need to stop thinking about children as being their own, right? They need to realize that children belong to the community. And then when we think we get that type of mindset, then we can move forward, sort of thing. That's the mindset of these New World Order scumbags. These people are like, I would not hesitate to tell this Firestone CUNT that she is a hideous creature to her face for writing this type of crap. Because you know what, if you're going to write these types of books and you're going to put this stuff out there, expect the criticism to come back, because you are lying. You are outright lying. You are manipulating people, and you are giving absolute bullshit. You're logical fallacy upon logical fallacy in these types of articles that are all there to design to program women into this, being a mother is just the worst thing ever, and it's all because of the patriarchy, and it's just awful, and you gotta blame men, and guess what, we're gonna make babies in the wombs, but that's not even gonna be good enough, because you're still gonna have to breastfeed, and you're still gonna have to do the messy jobs and change the diapers.
Have you heard of the smart diapers?
I know, yeah, they have the smart diaper. What do they do?
Yeah,
they tell you
they tell you when the baby's wet and stuff. You can't even check anymore. They're trying to take away
the baby will tell you,
instinct. Right? No, that's not good enough. It's got to have the Wi-Fi connected to it.
Yeah. So this hints at a much bigger problem in assuming the unequivocal support for the feminist cause. Artificial wombs promise to relieve women of the physical oppression that feminists have associated with reproductive process, but it does not necessarily address the problem on the conceptual level. That is, it doesn't challenge the particular patriarchal values and thinking that render the process of oppressive in the eyes of those feminists. In fact, a closer inspection of the metaphysical entanglements of the artificial womb technology indicates the potential to harm the liberation effort instead. And the quote here, post-birth, it remains true that it's largely women who are expected to breastfeed. Okay, I mean, like, Venomnymous, what, you didn't offer to breastfeed your daughter? And
I had a slight problem. I couldn't make any milk. I tried.
You just didn't get the tranny pills, man. You got to get those. You got to get those estrogen pills, and you got to max out the estrogen and change your gender and all that.
Oh wait, wow. I did bottle feed. I did help bottle feed when
there you go.
When she wasn't breastfeeding,
Mr. Mom.
We pumped off the milk, and I would help. When she needs breaks.
Mr. Mom. Mr. Mom. And again, the Mr. Mom theme pops up everywhere. I show it all the time, right? Like the Mr. Mom. I showed this recently too with Stranger Things, and it's like the beta male character that they killed off that Sean Astin played, and he was so excited when the kids brought home the VHS movie. He's like, Mr. Mom. And it's like, oh yeah, there they go again. And again, what you said too, there's a certain group of people I'll talk about, but all the movies and television shows do this all the time, where they depict the children as being much smarter than the parents, and that the children have to deal with the stupid parents all the time.
The Homer Simpsons.
Yeah. Homer Simpson's. There's umpteen movies and television shows that
Sitcoms and
yeah,
yeah,
all the themes, and it's all a deconstruction again of the family. Also, I talk about how they use these memes to divide and conquer us, where they've got the okay boomers, right, where kids automatically, if they're being told by their elder, oh, maybe you shouldn't really complain about, or maybe you should just not focus on all your gender complications or something, they'll be like, okay, boomer. Yeah. Right. And then the elder too we get disgusted by the youth because they're doing the stupidest things like the Tide Pods and all that crap too. So there's always a divide and conquer play in all cases.
every group there's a dividing opposite. Like
yes.
like even with diets, like there's when they had the vegan thing come out, they then had keto come out after that, so that they could have the two the dynamic there.
Yeah, the left and right sort of play out. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I think we could move on from this article.
Yeah, totally.
It's just awful.
I don't want to read any more of that. It's
Oh, and we saw that one there too. It's just nuts, though. It's like, wow. Here's the conversation here: from frozen ovaries to lab-grown babies, the future of childbirth. And I don't know if there's anything here that we haven't quite covered, but
yeah, I don't remember.
It says one of the real game changers will be women's ability to preserve their fertility and have children later in life. And this is a big thing that they're selling to women, to freeze their eggs and stuff like that. The procedure of freezing eggs was once fairly unsuccessful, but these days 80 to 90% of eggs survive, and women have a 97% chance of having a baby if they freeze 40 or more eggs before they turn 35. So this is just another way of delaying the onset of family, having women postpone sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with so much of what's going on, the cancer rates and the sickness and the complications and the student debts and the debt-based society that we live in, that a lot of these women that will freeze their eggs and think, well, I'll wait till later, will realize at a certain, or when they're getting up there and they're thinking, oh, maybe I should. And then they'll be like, oh, it's going to be too economically constraining, and, and maybe I'll just go without it, sort of thing. So this is another method of programming women.
You're like, yeah, I still have to breastfeed it and stuff. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
or bottle feed it.
And again, like, I understand, like, technology doesn't have to be evil. It can be good. You can save lives. Right? You can make people's lives easier. We've all benefited from technology. Women benefit from, medicine and stuff like that, especially when it comes to childbirth and stuff like that. So it's not that everything that is going to come out is going to be awful and evil, and, but we just need to really see how the narrative is being played out, which I think it's amazing to think about this, because, I didn't really think when I was seeing the artificial wombs and all that I wasn't really seeing, or I wasn't really noticing as much the whole feminist angle to this. But now it's
that's
like,
sort of like just caught my eye.
Yeah, it's just like now
recently.
It's like, wow, it's all over the place. Now here, speaking of feminism, Women of the Year 2030 here.
Oh yeah, this is an interesting one.
So the Smithsonian here, and you've got lab-grown babies in the year 2030. Here, 1930. Sorry, go ahead.
This is actually where I first noticed the feminist thing, was this article.
Okay,
cool. Feminist angle was this one.
The angry sort of feminist here, who's got her back to the male here or something. And they've got, like, is this somebody holding up a E or a 3 sign here? This is really bizarre. This is Edward McKnight coffer, I wonder, here. Of course, that's the artwork. 1930s book argued that women's liberation from the dangers of childbirth would be a crucial first step towards gender equality.
It's like, you just wonder, like, how long have they had this planned for? It's crazy. Like, that's like the Agenda 2030 thing. Like, the UN was thinking about that way before, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100 years. Well,
this is even more than that.
Bernard Shaw, like some of the aforementioned names, right? That have always been eugenicists, right?
Oh, yeah, we gotta play a clip of that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, if you want to send me a clip, you find that clip and I'll play it for sure. In 1930, Frederick Edward Smith, the first Earl of Birkenhead, oh wonderful, wrote a book, The World in 2030 AD. So, again, right? So he wrote this back in 1930 and accurately, perhaps predicting a lot of what's going to happen, containing predictions about war. It'll be less vicious when the world is a single economic unit. The state of agriculture, it will gradually go extinct, and the effects of science, Einsteinian physics, will provide an instinctive background to all men's minds. Hey, that sounds sexist, man. But the chapter that really stuck out for me was the one about women in the year 2030, which included predictions of ectogenesis, creating life outside the body, presumably in a laboratory setting. The author claims that this will be the first step to men and women being paid equal wages for the same amount of work and usher in a brave new world that enables women to vastly expand their accomplishments in every sphere of life. So in 2030, the prospect of women's liberation from the dangers of childbirth will be almost certainly become a matter of general realization. This evolution, the most serious biological departure since the natural separation of living organisms into two sexes, will vitally transform the whole status of women in society. Unless their present importance and limitations can be clearly apprehended, their future development cannot be apprehended. Science, as I hinted in a previous chapter, already foreshadows the possibility of producing living offspring in a laboratory from germs of various animal species. Hitherto, no living animal has been brought to birth ab initio, but the fetus of various species has been removed from and this is 100 years ago, so or 90 years ago. But the fetus of various species has been removed from the maternal organism and further developed by skillful manipulation in biological laboratories. It is certain that scientists will one day succeed in producing a living human infant by such means. This process, known as ectogenesis, will be violently and furiously opposed by spiritual descendants of all those who now attack contraception, which they would refer obviously as Christians. The first practitioners of ectogenesis will possibly obtain the crown of martyrdom. And yeah, that's today. Some religious groups oppose vitro fertilization on the grounds that the act of procreation is disconnected from the love of the parent, and that's a huge thing too. Because when you're making love plays, the whole magic sauce, that's going on, right?
Yeah.
If you love that person and you're making love to them, and you truly love them, then that has a big it's probably undebatable. It has a big determination in the outcome of the child, right? That a healthy male that really loves his wife and is making love to him will give a good seed and stuff like that. So, although its economic effect on women is most important result which ectogenesis will bring, I must consider also its effects on marriage and family life as we know them. First, ectogenesis will entirely divorce physical love from reproduction of the species. The common practice of contraception has already, in some measures, accustomed certain classes of the population to this idea. Its complete realization will occupy many generations and create violent social readjustment. That's pretty nuts, eh?
Yeah.
And then they've got Ira S. Wild here in 1933. There we get our 33. Predicted that by 2033 we would see governments deciding who.
Yeah.
This is out of this world, because this is exactly where we're going. 100%. Who might be allowed to marry?
I keep thinking about Camille when she said that there was Epstein was involved in some program that would genetically match people.
Yeah.
And I just think that's how they might decide who can marry who is through genetics,
Yeah.
because it's
Well, that's the
eugenics.
DNA collection and all
Yeah,
that, right? That's
exactly.
exactly what they're doing. So the 1930 movie, Just Imagine, First Kelly shows people getting their we showed that from the baby from the vending machine. Of course,
that's where I found it.
Yeah, the classic dystopian novel Brave New World by Aldous Huxley portrayed a future where children were raised in labs and conditioning centers, and the word mother has become an obscenity. Now, I talked about this for many years with the LGBT and all that, right? That they're eliminating mother and father from government documents. They're doing this in Canada. They're doing this in like numerous European states. Because, of course, of transgenders, right? So they don't want to offend transgenders, so they don't want to use the term mother anymore. So they replace the term mother with parent or something like that, right?
And that's a dirty word in Brave New World. You can't say mother.
Yeah,
that's like that disgusts people. And then if you say father, then that just makes them laugh.
Yeah, exactly. And then the illustrations of 2030. Okay, so that's nuts. I mean, it's just another article to throw in the pile here. Here you've got, this crib is designed to grow babies outside the womb.
We gotta watch that trailer, or
where is
it's
it?
totally yeah. We gotta watch the video.
Okay,
yeah.
Here, let's bring this up. Oh my God! So the reversal.
She's bigger.
Yeah.
and she's kind of like dressed like Brave New World, the kind of suits they would wear.
Yeah. The and the hairstyle as well, right?
Yeah.
So the male has. Oh my God! It's just such. It's oh my God. Anyways. Is this real though, or is this like
no? This was
a parody or something.
No, these were students at like a fair that did this bio design, and this is the project they came up with. But it's like, I don't know, it's really
it's nuts.
Just
because
that's creepy.
Yeah, this Parturian spot. You know, it makes me think too. Tamagotchi and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it
like little digital pets.
Yeah, in Japan, there was this big phenom called Tamagotchi, where kids would get these eggs that were like their little computer programs, and they would hatch at some point, and you wouldn't really hatch, but you would have a computer sort of simulated pet that you would take care of, and the better you took care of the little Tamagotchi, the better it would treat you or something like that.
Yeah, doesn't it like die if you ignore it?
Yeah, if you ignored it. Oh, it's so crazy. Anyways, look out here.
He's talking to his baby right now.
and the NSA and A200 and co. Talking to his baby. Yeah, wonderful. Of course.
She could feel it kicking.
Wow.
Look how ridiculous you look.
And it does. It could easily be a man. I wouldn't put it past some sort of thing. But she's like twice the size of her mate. They use that symbolism too with the insects, especially spiders. Black Widow and all that.
Yeah, she's got the purple on, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
Purple and yellow.
Yeah, purple and yellow. Good catch. There he is. He's Mr. Mom.
Oh, I better get dinner ready. She's coming.
Remember, look what he's done too. He's like, it's a big task. He's here. What side do I put the fork on here? He's like,
I
gotta
better
make
get it
sure.
right.
Yeah, I did it again. Thank God, I got it. All right. She won't yell at me. Maybe she won't beat me up today.
She's stressed from a hard day in her glass tower.
Yeah, there you go. Ah, that's it. Yeah, you get wasted. And it got
Oh yeah, there we go. They're making the baby food.
and I can't help but notice the bee sort of hive symbolism.
There you go. Yeah, hive mind.
Oh yeah, wonderful.
It's Soylent Green.
It is. Oh, I hope her male does his job and cleans up that little mess.
You better
there.
be on that.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't think she made enough.
Oh.
They're just a little feeding.
Oh yeah,
This is crazy.
This is exactly.
Just shove it in there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's downloading the latest information, the latest updates.
Monitoring it.
Yeah. Don't worry, your baby's got the latest updates. We got the new chips in there. It's so.
Your baby's due for another vaccine.
Yeah. The baby gets vaccines every hour.
Yeah.
Every hour.
That's another thing in Brave New World. They vaccinate them in the process of breeding them. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have all the vaccines.
Wow.
Anyways, yeah.
It's turning purple.
Oh, there you go. It's happy.
Yeah.
Why is everyone wearing yellow?
The hive mind.
Busy bees.
Yeah. Because it's the community, right? This is what it symbolizes here. It's even though you'd think that maybe this beta male and this thing here are the genetic sort of parents of the biolab created thing, but you got to have all the friends there, and we're going to raise it as the community because you can't think of the child as belonging to yourself, right? You can't have that mindset. You got to lean forward. There you go. George, Martha, newly born Robin. They got a doll too. It's a doll. You could see they don't even use a real baby. But yeah, wow. Everything's yellow too, eh? Except a bit of orange there. But wow, that's crazy.
There's also a mock interview they do where they talk about like basically CRISPR baby, how they would like to, what kind of kid they want. Do they want it to have like stronger lungs so it can do undersea welding, just stuff like that. It's just crazy.
So they're really pushing the Brave New World.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I wonder if they have it included in there. If not, I can send you the link to it.
They said here, yeah, I think
there
it
is. That's the mock interview.
All right.
You should watch that too.
Bill and Thomas. You catch that? Bill and Thomas are 4 months into their pregnancy. You can't hear it, right?
No, I can't. Get the captions on there.
I think I do have them on. Yeah. Wait a second. No, I don't. No, I did. Spanish? What? What's going on here? Hang on a second.
Tomfoolery.
Spanish. Click for settings. Okay. Why would they put Spanish? What the hell are you doing? Spanish. Off. Okay, let's see. And then if I put them on Spanish, why is it going this way? They've hacked into my computer or something. I don't
It's
know
okay.
what the hell is going on here. Auto translate. Oh, okay. Here it gives me some. There we go. English. Spanish auto generated to English now. Okay, let's see this.
Oh, there we go.
So. I don't know if the audience can't hear it and the captions aren't working. Do you know?
Weird.
Yeah, because like I don't know what's going on here. I'm sorry about that. Maybe it's because the video only has whatever. But yeah, we don't have the captions. Do you know what they say, kind of thing, or do they summarize it?
Well, yeah,
here?
they just say they ask the baby, do they want the baby to look like them, or do they want it to be a boy or a girl, or gender non-specific? Do they want it? Just everything, just like all the stuff you can think of. Like,
can you order a drag kid?
Maybe.
Oh, it's so sick, man. This is just nuts. There's a dystopian side of this story. Super strong mutated babies grown in secret military labs. Totalitarian governments using yield management to control the number of babies born each year. Eugenically ideal artisan crafted babies that are only the wealthiest among us can buy into existence. That's exactly what we face in many ways. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So, I mean, they at least they put that part into the whole article here. But yeah, it's nuts. It's just, this is why it's all a deconstruction. Everything's being deconstructed. Families being deconstructed. Motherhood's being deconstructed. Fatherhood's being deconstructed. The patriarchy, obviously, the bond between male and female. Polyamory is being pushed everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see the whole I remember covering the insufferable homosexuals called ASAP Science. These two hideous characters, not sure the tribe, but they released this video a couple of years ago on polyamory. So when you look it up on YouTube, that's the first thing that comes up. And they did a whole breakdown with their little crappy sort of dry board erasing drawings. And they said there's really no reason for monogamous relationships. And they went through history and they said there's no real reason why we have them. And then they showed a bunch of other animals that don't have, like most animals, and they're showing all that. And then they never once in the entire video mentioned family. It's
yeah, I remember that.
Astonishing. Here's the science of singularity. So here are your transhumanists here. Artificial wombs are coming, but the controversy is already here. I don't know if there's anything else in this article here that bears attention that we haven't seen yet. Can you recall if this one here?
Although no, it's pretty much all the same, I think.
Yeah, this is pretty creepy. You got the babies here in these vials here with the computers right in front of them with the whole readout sort of thing. This is just nuts though, eh? It's like, where does it end? Here, we showed this before with the artificial womb. Dutch researchers are given 2.9 million pounds to develop a prototype. This is from October of just last year. So they're giving large grants to scientists to develop these things. So that this goes to show you how much they really want this to come about. And then they show again biobank. I got to tell you this story because it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
My younger brother, there's a photo of him as a baby, and my dad put him in a supermarket paper bag.
Oh yeah.
And so I used to tell my younger brother, I say, that's when we bought you from the grocery, and if you keep causing trouble, Dad says he's gonna send you back. But yeah, it's just nuts. This is out of this world where it's all going. Um, all this just goes to show you. I mean, most of these articles. Oh yeah, this one. Wow. Men redundant. We now we don't need women either. Okay. Scientists have developed an artificial womb that allows embryos to grow outside the body. So you can picture a future where we're going to have just the whole there just people will be brought up without the concept of family at all, without the concept of mother. Like another book that does this that I can recall offhand is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. But there's so many of these books. You go back, you read a lot of the sci-fi books, the classic ones that they always promote, the BBC and co, and they often put in your children's libraries that show this particular future of no families existing, sort of the control of reproduction in the hands of the state completely, and people being born for a certain caste, like in Brave New World with the the alphas and the betas and the deltas and all the different types, gammas and all that are developed for particular tasks. This, in many ways, you could see countries like China definitely getting into this, because that would work really well for China. Like if you want to make a worker class, I mean, in many ways they do this anyways, right? Like you could say to a certain extent, the average person. So like as far as I know, the average IQ in the United States and North America is under 100 now. And that's like down maybe 10, 15 points from where it was, say, 50 years ago. Yeah. So, and that's because of a combination of factors, obviously, toxic foods, genetically modified, all those things, but also television, mind control, all the different things that people engage in on a daily basis.
Educational programs, schooling is just terrible now for
exactly. So
reasons.
We have so much of this already happening. It's just not official, and it's not like we have like people we don't know at this point, but we can't say that they're breeding people. But imagine if this, hypothetically, if you have the ability like what they show in Blade Runner and some of the other things that we've shown before, where you can grow full-grown human beings, like adult human beings, and then you can program them, say with Elon Musk brain chips and whatnot, and send them out right away. Like they come out of the laboratory, you dress them up, and then you'd stick the computer program in their head, and then they would be a functional human being. It's probably
ready to serve.
Yeah, it's probably not that far off. And so, and again with the cloning, now they show this in the film Us. You know the film Us?
I've heard of it.
This is by Jordan Peele, who's a major New World Order person. And he happens to be married to the sister of Jonah Peretti, who's the creator, CEO of BuzzFeed. So it's a very interesting connection. But in the film Us, it's that every human being in the United States has a clone that's underground, basically. And so it's like a mirror of yourself, but it's a mirror. It's not like the same thing of you. It's like an undeveloped, psychopathic almost version of you, but it's a mirror image, a identical sort of thing. And then in the film, they rise up. They manage to escape from underneath the world, and they come and they kill all their original sort of the people that they were cloned after, sort of thing. Yeah, it's actually
replace them.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying something like that's going to play out, but it is an interesting sort of thing because all your movies have major. They're not accidental, and they have a lot of themes that are extremely relevant to what they're going to do to all of us, or what they already are doing to all of us. So it's just another reason for everyone to be very. Don't give your DNA, right? Like don't do these things, because if they have your DNA, they can grow you. Like they can literally clone you, just like they're cloning dogs right now. And that's a scary thought. Now, when we get into, and I'll do this in an upcoming podcast, so I'm going to talk about the emulation of human beings, which they've shown in Black Mirror, which is very disturbing, because you could create digital emulations of like downloading somebody's personality and memories and all that into a program in which they would feel like they were 100% alive, and you could put them in a virtual hell, basically, sort of thing. And they show this in the one of the episodes that I got censored for, because whenever I do an expose of a Black Mirror, they come after my videos. But there was one called USS Callister. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Black Mirror, Anonymous, but
No, I haven't seen that one.
yeah, that one, it's the Star Trek one. So in that,
Oh wait, I did see that one.
yeah, in that film, there's like a nerdy sort of vindictive nerd sort of chief officer in some tech corporation that build like virtual games that you can go and exist in, and he tries to take revenge, or he takes revenge on his coworkers by collecting their DNA and then downloading them into a virtual hell which he controls, which happens to be like a Star Trek emulation, and then he makes them suffer endlessly and they can never leave. So it's really disturbing stuff, and I'll get into that when we do the whole show on emulation, or emulated emus, or they call them emulated sort of humans in the future.
What's really disturbing is they don't even need your DNA specifically. They just need someone in your family to give the DNA. Then you're screwed. They can get you from that.
Yes, that's true. And again, that's why it's very important that you try to warn people about that. I thought this was interesting because I thought of this. I thought of The Wrath of Khan. Have you seen that one?
A long time ago.
Okay, but do you know who Khan is in the Star Trek series?
Yeah.
Okay, so Khan comes from the original Star Trek, from an episode called Space Seed, and he's one of these. He came from the eugenics wars, right?
Oh my God, that's
yeah. So in the Star Trek universe, they have something here, as you see it, the eugenics wars. And they happened because Star Trek took place in the 60s, but they had it take place in the 90s. And then in later Star Treks, they changed when it took place. But he was one of the leaders of this. So he was a genetically enhanced human being, right? That was grown in a lab, basically. And he rebelled against society and created this massive war. He was the leader. So after being revived from, so the character had controlled more than a quarter of the Earth during the eugenics wars of the 1990s. After being revived from suspended animation in 2026 by the crew of the Starship Enterprise, Khan attempts to capture the starship. This is what happens on the original show. And then he gets exiled to the SETI Alpha 5. And they have the whole Genesis theme. So Star Trek is very telling. The movies, the show, all of it's telling. There's a lot of things coded in that, and a lot, like the original Star Trek, they got the top science fiction writers to write a lot of the stories. So there's a lot to foreshadowing here. But this is a very interesting story and they rebooted it, right? Recently, they made a new Khan movie, I think, in the new Star Trek series.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they brought him back. It was Bernard Cumberbunch or whatever that guy's name. I don't know. he played Khan, but the original one is Ricardo Montalban, and he's like the most legendary sort of villain in the Star Trek series, and they liked him so much that they brought him back for the Wrath of Khan, which is widely heralded as the greatest Star Trek movie out of all the movies. It's a classic sort of movie, but yes. I found it very interesting because he was a genetically superior human being that was grown in a lab. And what happened in the story is that he created this massive wars on Earth because you had the genetically advanced human beings warring against the traditional human beings. And this is a theme that is in a lot of entertainment these days, including the game, which I covered, unfortunately, which was called Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And in Deus Ex Mankind Divided, the Earth is destroyed because of a war between traditional human beings and genetically mutated or cybernetic, or what do you call it, transhumanist human beings.
Yeah.
and you play a character that's a transhumanist that as you progress through the game, you enhance all your transhumanist sort of characteristics.
Okay. You can't be the good guys. You got to be the
You're
destroying humanity.
almost always in all these games.
Reversed.
You're always the bad guy. Almost always. They make you think you're the good guy, but you're always the devil, basically. Yeah, it's like what we showed with the new Batman. He's basically the devil in it. But that it's very, very interesting. That theme here of the Star Trek series, and they talk about the eugenics wars here. So the eugenics wars, it may not
say World War III or II. I can't.
World War III. World War III. Yeah. So, and when the original Star Trek was produced in the 1990s, the 1990s were several decades away. So various elements of the backstory of Star Trek are set in that area, particularly the eugenics wars. The reference to the eugenics wars and the nuclear war of the 21st century are somewhat contradictory. So they talk about the space seed establishes the eugenics wars and has them lasting from 1992 to 1996. Of course, getting your 666 in there. The eugenics wars are described as a global conflict from the progeny of the human genetic engineering, right? Project, most notably Can Noonien Singh here, of course, the Wrath of Khan himself. Khan is, the famous sort of William Shatner overacting segment there, established themselves as what? Superman. When we talk about the Superman, the original Superman was the Nietzsche, right? And the Overman, the man who smashes the tablets, basically. So unlike Abraham, he challenges God. He climbs the mountains, and he gets the tablets of God, and he smashes them down. He becomes the Uberman, the Superman sort of thing. And a lot of very influential people, including Ayn Rand and Henry Kissinger and so many others, were heavily influenced. Obviously, Edward Bernays was the nephew of Nietzsche himself, and the creator of the CEO and founder of Netflix is the grandnephew of Edward Bernays, and Edward Bernays being the greatest propagandist in the history of the United States. Friedrich Nietzsche, of course, being one of the most famous philosophers that they use over and over again to what? Deconstruct the family. In fact, that's probably Friedrich Nietzsche's number one purpose, is to deconstruct. Every son wants to screw the mother, the whole thing, right? Like all the different anti-family sort of sexual sort of things that they program. It's very evil stuff. So they have here the Supermen who attempt world domination, and Spock calls them the last so-called world wars, and McCoy identified as the eugenics wars. And then they change it, and they say that the World War III killed 37 million people, and then they change it later in the TNG, and they say it happened in 2079. So as the more modern shows, they push it back. And then they did this, and they had nuclear war in World War III here in the mid 21st century. So the Star Trek history goes all over the place. But it's just an interesting thing to throw in terms of the saga of this eugenics sort of superhumans, these genetically modified humans, which they envisioned long ago, as we've shown. I mean, this is going back at least 100 years when it comes to at least, I mean, we're probably several hundred years when they talk about eugenics. And, they knew ages ago that you breed the people a certain way. And, that's the royal bloodline, for instance, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Here we have the patent that was filed here by E.M. Greenberg, you wonder, right? And this was the world's first artificial womb. This was
actually I looked at this the other day. I saw this.
Yeah.
But
so
go ahead.
This is from November 1955, and this M. Greenberg here designed this way back then. Here, I looked it up, the artificial worm. Emmanuel M. Greenberg here, and this is and it's interesting that they've got of course, they keep showing this lamb here in the baggie sort of thing, right? But just to show you how far it does go back in terms, I mean, it goes, we know it goes back really far, and we've shown that, but Anyways, yeah, I had it open there. This is the game Death Stranding. So
Okay, that's creepy.
Death Stranding is one of the top games
Look
that
at his
came out.
black little eyes.
Yeah. And so in the game Death Stranding, you play this character who's the guy. Is it Daryl from Walking Dead? Do you watch this guy here?
No.
Norman
Okay, I know
Reedus.
that guy though. Yeah.
Norman Reedus.
He's the actual character in this game.
Yeah.
So this is connected to the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Not Evil Dead,
Guess what? So in this game, you get to watch him take shits and showers.
Fantastic. That's all I ever wanted.
And when you want to replenish your energy, guess what you have to take?
Do you take a swig of that baby?
Almost. You take a swig of the monster.
Gotta get that marketing in there.
Can you believe this? Now, I don't know if you know this, but this monster here is 666. It's
yeah.
It's Hebrew.
I heard that even back when I was a normie.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so in the game Death Stranding, you go around as your Norman Reedus character, who you get to watch take shits and showers.
What's the baby for?
Yeah, well,
what the fuck is the baby for?
Mr. Mom?
He glows.
He's Mr. Mom.
Is he like a light flash?
Yeah,
flashlight?
I don't know exactly.
A little baby lantern he walks around with.
Yeah.
You
It's
wouldn't hit a guy with a baby in a jar, would you?
I'm looking at the chat here. Your TV Unplugged says you use the baby to detect scary things.
Okay, that's interesting.
But and thanks for that. Appreciate that in the chat. But the real thing is you're Mr. Mom, and you got to carry this baby around in its tube and care for it, and you develop an emotional attachment to it. Now, I have not played the game, and I have no desire to play it, but I know Stranger Than Fiction played it. And he was the one that sent me all the information on this. So, yeah, it's pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. I don't know if there's anything else here. Yeah, we showed that. And designer baby. So I put in a search for this, and you see all the articles that are coming up here.
Cummings.
Dominic Cummings for designer babies, right?
Of course. Gotta have that name there.
Designer babies, rogue science or future option. The creation of designer babies by editing genome. And they say impossible here. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
New York to consider allowing men to commission babies.
Commission babies. What does that mean?
Nuts. It's nuts. And we've got a couple more articles here. Designer babies, an ethical horror waiting to happen. And this, like, yeah, it's not necessarily the artificial womb babies, but it is in a way, because like it'll first start off with the gene editing in the traditional sort of mothers giving birth sort of thing, right? But it will quickly morph into the artificial womb. So I believe that all of this is all connected. Like, we face a future where we're going to have humans that are grown, and there'll be, like the government will control, the state itself, the corporatocracy, the one world government will control and decide who gets to have babies. And then all these babies, it's going to be the people that have the wealth that are going to be able to afford the latest tech and the most desirable genes. So say you want Mozart genes mixed with Shaquille O'Neal genes mixed with, I don't know, Bo Derek or something. I don't know, right? You want to have the best looking kid with the most athletic prowess, with the most musical sort of talent, with the scientific mind, maybe the brain of Einstein, for instance, or something like that, right? Yeah. And it'll be the elites. And then, of course, on top of that, you will have the whole brain chips and nanotech all coming at the same time. Now, they say with the brain...
Yeah, 2030.
Yeah, the brain chips, it's 2030. With the nanotech, they say everyone's going to have it by 2030. So all these things are all happening, and they all seem to hover around the year 2030.
Yeah, same with the collapse of animal agriculture will be 2030 as well.
Yeah. That's true as well, yes, and that's why they're giving us the Soylent Green and conditioning us into the plant-based burgers and all that crap, because they are going to wipe all that out. We showed recently how they were buying up, or they're transforming all the agriculture farms in the UK, and reverting them back to nature. So basically paying farmers not to grow crops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about, how they're going to build or they're going to use high rises to grow all their fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, vertical farming.
Vertical farming.
Precision farming. There's also
exactly.
Precision fermentation where they do the, gene edited food stuff.
Yeah. So anyways, I think that's everything. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
Oh, I sent you that clip.
Okay. Yeah. Let's bring
in
that
the private chat. Just watch what a Fabian socialist would like your society to be.
Let's see here. Private chat. All right, cool. I'm going to copy that. And I'll bring that over here.
This is the guy that Aldous Huxley decided to put in his book 3 times. 3 different ways.
No. That's nuts.
Yeah,
absolutely
crazy.
Nuts. All right, so it's a good. I guess we're gonna close it up here. We go for 3 hours, and
almost, yeah.
So
nice.
Great job. Thank you so much, Anonymous. I put your links in the chat there, so all the folks that are listening, you want to check out.
Yeah, go to my Steam It, people.
Steam It.
I've been covering the coronavirus as well, and I got a 2-part series so far, and I'm working on the 3rd.
He does excellent articles on Steam It. And I don't think you're much on YouTube, but although you show up in the chats and stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for showing up tonight and taking part in the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you can give us a thumbs up and maybe come and support me on Patreon if you can. Links in the description. And stay tuned. I'll be back tomorrow night. Obviously, Fridays for fun. So maybe we'll touch on some more of this, and we'll take it up the latest to show you where all this is going. It's pretty crazy. So stay strong. Help share this information if you can. Share the articles. Share the Venomnymous Steam It. Share this video, and just try to engage people in conversations about this, because we're all being played, we're all being manipulated, we're all being driven towards, the herd is all being pushed towards this future. Depopulation is one of the biggest themes. The taking control of human reproduction is all over the New World Order, and this is where it's all coming. And it all seems to be heading towards that 2030. Like we're going to see everything radically change. We're seeing it happen all around us. It's undoubtable. It's or undeniable at this point in time how much is transforming. So it's quite scary. So we need to do our best to try to speak out and try to protect people from this type of transition that they're doing to humanity, and fight the good fight. So that being said, bid you all a wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care, folks.
See you later.
All right.